Hello and welcome to the Katie Halper Show. I'm your host, Katie Halper, and I'm so glad to be here joined by Leslie Lee, the third.
Hey, how's it going?
Good, you?
A little sad because I feel like the last time we did this, we were a lot closer.
We were closer. We were physically closer. It's true. Leslie and I both vaccinated. We did see each other. He visited. It was a great time. I should have put together a slideshow.
Like a memorial slideshow
A
of the
memorial to our
vacation.
time together. Yeah, it's true. And we did a stream. It was great to be in person. It was the first time we hung out since the beginning of since COVID started, since before COVID
Yes.
started, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was really nice to see you. And while I'm sad we're not in person, it was lovely hanging out with Leslie and also Leslie's partner, who I felt like I knew, but I never met. Now I met in real life. And so hi. And also hi to Taco, who I still haven't met. That's Leslie's dog.
Oh, yes. He's down there in the corner.
Okay, yeah, he's on screen, so I feel like I know him. But today's show is wonderful. We're going to have a full lineup. First, we're going to be talking to Assemblymember Ron Kim, who represents New York's 40th District. He's an incredibly brave person who actually refused to be silenced when he found out about Andrew Cuomo's nursing home scandal. And you know what happens when you refuse to be silent? And Andrew Cuomo asks you to be silent, you're going to get threatened. So he got threatened by Cuomo, who said he would destroy him, which probably seems a little bit funny in hindsight now, but we know wasn't funny at the time. And he's going to talk to us about some demands that he's making. He's using his power to hold the new governor, the soon-to-be governor, accountable. And he is going to be talking to us about all things political. Then we're going to have on Pramilla Malick, who is an environmental activist. She also ran for state senate in New York, and she's going to be talking to us about more Cuomo stuff that we haven't even talked about. Well, we talked about the Katie Halper show, but most people haven't talked about it. That's just how it goes, because news breaks here, and then it's either ignored or it travels around the world. And then we're going to be talking to Jack Allison, Leslie's co-host of Struggle Session, about SKDK, which is the PR firm that was involved, of course, in Time's Up and has an interesting legacy, both representing Time's Up and also helping people like Andrew Cuomo. So it's a great show. Should we just get the show on the road?
Yeah, let's do it.
Let's just do it. Okay, I'm distracted by this angle. It's kind of weird. It's like looking down at me. How's the angle? Should I raise my seat?
Oh, no, you look good.
All right.
No, you look fine.
Thanks. Okay. So, all right. On to less superficial things than angles. We're going to talk about life and death on these streets in New York City. The shadow is driving me crazy. And we're going to bring onto the show back once again, Assemblymember Ron Kim. Hello.
Hi, Katie. Thanks for having me back on. It's good to see you and Leslie.
Of course. Thank you so much for joining us.
Anytime.
So last time we spoke, you had been recently yelled at, threatened by Andrew Cuomo. Now it's a different world. Tell us what your thoughts are on what happened to Andrew Cuomo. And do you feel relieved that he's gone? Do you think that, what do you think about his political future and his replacement?
Yeah, I mean, finally, his long pattern of abusive behavior and abuse of power have caught up to him. After I came out, a number of public servants followed, and before even I came out, there was a woman who came out, Lindsey Boland, back in December about him sexually assault and abusing his power against her. So I want to give her a shout out for being the first to really step up and talk about what Andrew Cuomo is capable of doing. But after her, there was 10 other women who bravely came out over the course of last few months. And just think about some of those people who came out to speak against Andrew Cuomo. They some of them, at least one of them, still work in his office. And for her to, risk everything and being, out there at a society that you and I both know still do not believe in women, we have such a duty to step in, protect their voice, and seize this moment to get everything right in places like Albany so we can completely root out the toxic and abusive culture that Andrew Cuomo helped normalize for the last many years.
And can you just briefly describe what happened under Cuomo's watch with the nursing homes and also your relationship to that and your uncle?
Yeah, so I started pushing back against Cuomo last year at the peak of the pandemic, starting in April, May, June, when I started to see the outcome of his deadly policies on the ground. Two in particular, one on the March 25th order, where he ended up sending 9,000 COVID positive patients to unprepared nursing homes, and these facilities were not prepared to take them in. And the legal immunity that he gave out to his top nursing home executives in the process, which led to suppression of data and life and death information, which he tried to lie about in hopes that the public wasn't paying attention, because he had an incredible platform. He got on CNN every other night and literally gaslit the public to believe that he was doing a good job and New York didn't have any issues around nursing homes. This is when I started to push back. I actually had a re-election. I had a primary election. Every consultant, every person is telling me, do not criticize this governor. He's polling at 80, 90%. You're going to lose your election. Don't do it. But I made a promise, not to just my family, because I lost my uncle at a nursing home around that time. This is a person that's very dear to me. He is responsible for bringing my family to this country. My uncle was a U.S. Army captain at a time when the military had no Asian Americans serving in this country. And he came to serve because he wanted to be part of the American fabric. And he brought our family over from South Korea. And for him to die alone in excruciating pain, with none of us knowing what's going on because of some of the failed policies that this governor put in, was unacceptable. And 16,000 other families went through similar experiences as a result of our state's failure to take care of our elderly.
And can you just explain what it was that Cuomo did and why he did it?
So his explanation is that we didn't have capacity in the hospital, so let's put them in nursing homes. But the truth is, we weren't at maximum capacity, and we had a number of different options to send COVID positive patients. What happened when they sent these COVID positives to nursing homes is that they were getting higher reimbursements of Medicare. Traditional nursing home residents are Medicaid recipients, usually from low-income backgrounds. So they were literally incentivized to replace them with Medicare recipients, which happened to be COVID patients. But they lobbied internally behind closed doors. Hey, we can take them in, but we need to get out of jail free card because people are going to die and I'm not going to prison. And Cuomo, in the last minute of our budget, in a 5,000-page document, leveraging his power and his bullying tactics to put in this toxic, deadly legal immunity that disincentivized the industry from investing further into saving people's lives, while retroactively going back into March, taking away people's rights, their legal recourse to the courts. As you know, Leslie and Katie, the last defense for our most vulnerable population is their recourse, their ability to defend their rights in the courts, and Cuomo took that away from them retroactively.
Right, by making it so that they were immune to liability lawsuits? These
Correct.
Nursing homes? Yeah.
Correct.
So basically incentivizing them to be irresponsible with their patients.
Correct. And the lobbyists behind them, representing billions and billions of dollars, who've already donated millions of dollars to Cuomo, had front row access, and they bragged about it. They sent out a press release after they did it saying, oh, we got the governor to give you, legal immunity, which they, by the way, they took down the next day when I called them out on it. But they literally took that language, copied and pasted it, and took it to Washington, D.C., and gave it to the Republican Senate and said, this is exactly what we want nationwide. And they went to D.C., they went to other states, and used it as a gold standard of corporate protection, corporate forced policies at a time when it should have been people over profits at the peak of the pandemic.
So, and how was this revealed? Can you just remind people how we came to learn about it?
Yeah, a number of amazing investigative journalists, including our mutual friend David Sirota, did an amazing job diving into this. What happened, connecting the dots between the donors, the industry, and put out articles in the Guardian and the Associated Press and others, and all the local Albany reporters followed it. And one by one, we were getting exposure. So we were actually on track of repealing it back in July. And all of a sudden, the numbers didn't look that bad. And we found out much later that the governor and his staff directed the Department of Health to suppress the data, that they deflated life and death toll numbers so he can come out and say, we're not that bad compared to other states. And he chased down a $5.1 million book deal at the same time, citing the deflated number in his book. So legally speaking, that's criminal fraud. It's like imagine like Ford reporting a consumer safety guide, and then all of a sudden they deflated all their numbers and promoted a false number to give the impression that you're safe in a car, and they put a tiny little footnote in the back saying, well, actually, if you add this number and that number, it's not the total number. That is considered fraud. And that's what this governor did for months, and he should be held accountable for it.
And tell us, please, about Cuomo. Well, first, why did Cuomo finally meet his, I don't want to say his end, because I don't think that his political career is over. We can talk about that. But what do you think changed that made him resign?
Well, I think he got stuck in a situation where there's now multiple investigations happening. There's a U.S. attorney investigation into nursing homes, into his book deal. There is an open state attorney's office into his book deal, as well as other things. And the sexual harassment report came out by the Attorney General's office that we were waiting for 2 weeks ago, and everything spiraled for him from there on. And he figured out how to negotiate a soft landing, if you will, a gracious exit without acknowledging that he did anything wrong. And that's literally what he did. He had a performative press conference, not saying, I'm sorry, I did the wrong thing, literally saying, I'm sorry, you didn't understand my intention. And this is more generational and cultural thing. I didn't mean to hurt you, but I'm sorry anyways. That's not an apology. That's still gaslighting. And that's literally what he did. And that's why we need to impeach and follow through in the impeachment process so we can get a full account of what he did wrong, not to punish him. I'm not a punitive, kind of person, but to get a full account so we don't repeat those same mistakes. And if we let him free without getting the record straight, what are we normalizing in the future? We're saying, if you're a privileged man in this world who come from intergenerational wealth, you can get away with everything. You can gaslight the world and you just get a slap on the wrist and you can move on.
And who is replacing him? And tell us about her.
Yeah, Kathy Hochul has served as a lieutenant governor under Andrew Cuomo for many years now. She was the handpicked top lieutenant under Cuomo, and she will be replaced. She was a one-term Congress member in Buffalo and upstate New York, with the conservative immigrant policy background that was questionable. But since then, she walked back on those policies and has become much more progressive. And I'm rooting for her success. I want her to succeed on day one, but I don't subscribe to the traditional Democratic Party model, just opening everything up and going back to normal and calling for unity. I want her to succeed, but I also want her to be accountable on day one. What are some tangible things you will do to root out corruption and abuse in Albany? I want to see them, instead of you coming out and face the nation and saying, oh, I'm going to collaborate, I am going to be transparent. what does transparency look like? Will you guarantee that we have access to, you will comply with all of our FOIA requests immediately and not stall them? Will you have commissioners come in and openly swear under oath to testify with all the questions? Will you turn over all the data that we're asking for in real time and not stonewall us? These are the commitments that we want to see in Kathy Hochul moving forward.
And you actually have a press release that you released today, I believe. Was it today or this week? Was it today?
Yeah, I think yesterday or a couple of days ago.
Yesterday, yeah. So I'm just going to share that. It is a statement on true transparency from Lieutenant Governor. It's your statement on demanding true transparency from next governor, and you write. The past weekend, Lieutenant Governor Kathy Hochul appeared on Face the Nation and spoke about transparency and collaboration when asked what the public could expect from her administration. If she is true to her word, her administration must not allow any commissioner or government employees implicated in his deplorable behavior, including those responsible for covering up nursing home data or altering COVID-19 death statistics. In order to ensure a real transparency, we ask that the Lieutenant Governor commit to the following: handing over all nursing home data from the Department of Health and individual nursing home facilities, in addition to all communications between Dr. Zucker's Department of Health and the McKinsey Global Consulting Group. So can you tell us about that before we go on to the other demands?
Yeah, so the Department of Health issued a report, nursing home report back in July, but McKinsey was the consulting group that handled the report. Now, we still don't know the truth of what went down. There were about 9 high-level commissioners, bureaucrats that left the Department of Health as a result of this back and forth. But basically, the scientists and the health experts wanted to issue a certain type of report that reflected the truth. And between the governor and McKinsey, they were able to come up with a different report that portrayed a different picture of what was going on. So we want to know, what was that communication? What was the directive? What was McKinsey's role in coming up with this new report that did not reflect the truth?
I think I'm frozen. Can you guys hear me?
I can hear you, Kay.
Okay,
but your video,
is frozen. Should I refresh? Whatever. I'll just keep maybe let's see. Maybe Leslie, especially because everyone talks about how soothing your voice is. Do you mind reading the number 2, the second demand?
Second demand: a full pledge that her executive office will comply with FOIA requests from the legislature, the public, and members of the press without stalling.
Okay. 1 second. What are we doing? Okay, we're just disconnecting my okay. Let's see. Sorry about this. This is what happens, you see, when we speak truth to power.
Yes. They always find a way to give us tech problems.
They always do. In fact, we had this last time we had on Pramilla Malick, and you see, now it's a literal blackout. Like literal blackout. Hold on 1 second. Can you, sorry, 1 second. Let me just launch this. I pledged that her executive office will comply with FOIA requests. Wait, what's freedom of information? What's the L? FOIA.
Freedom of information something.
Something, yeah. Okay.
Law, yeah.
Law, right? Yeah. Request from the legislature, the public, and members of the press without stalling, full transparent compliance by her state commissioners and executive leadership at future oversight hearings with answering questions under oath. And we have a small window to assure the public that we are clearing out the corrupt vestiges of the former administration and holding all accountable for their actions. Let's use it. Okay, so any response so far?
She addressed some of my initial questions in real time on national TV at Face the Nation. But beyond that, I have not been in communication with the next governor. But I remain open. I look forward to sitting down with her in the near future. Oh, now everyone is off. Am I still streaming by
Sorry
myself
about that.
now?
Yeah. Sorry.
There you go. Okay.
Okay. Okay, great. And then oops, I didn't mean to get rid of Leslie too. All right, okay. Now we're back in business. Okay, so that's great. And you have another press release that you just released. 1 second. I'm sorry about this, everyone. You are also seeking the full audit and clawbacks on Kivit state contracts. Can you talk about what that is?
Oh, so Kivit is a private PR firm that the governor has hired privately to handle the dirty work behind researching and going after the victims who came out, particularly one who came out early who used to work for him. But in the process of doing that work, they've also secured millions and millions of dollars, up to $88 million contract with the state of New York, and doing the PR work for the Department of Health, doing the nursing home crisis, and the state university, which the governor's right-hand person is running currently. There's a lot of corrupt behavior in there, and I'm asking the comptroller to do a full audit, an explanation of how they were chosen to be the firm handling such a giant contract, who was in the bid, what did the RFP process look like, and if there's any kind of wrongdoing, we should go back and claw back this contract and terminate them ASAP.
And what else are you working on as Assembly member? What other projects or initiatives? What are the priorities for New Yorkers right now?
Well, I'm the chair of the Committee on Aging, overseeing the elderly and older adults. So we have a slew of legislation to really fight the ageist culture that we've been conditioned to accept. For many decades, we have the subcultures that police the racism and sexism in our communities, but we've done a horrible job at confronting the ageism that has permeated in our society. And it actually intersects with sexism and racism as well. We're talking about the type of language we use. We're talking about the sidewalks. Walking around New York City, how everything is geared toward the youth and everything in between, but not the vulnerable populations. And unless we confront that, we are allowing people to look the other way when such tragedies happen. Like, in my opinion, an eldercide occurred in places like New York State, where 16,000 seniors died in the period of 1 year. And everyone can kind of walk away from that because there's this normalization that at a certain age, if you're in a nursing home, it's almost like it's your duty to die for our society. And that's not good. That's not good enough. We need to change that narrative. So I'm working on that. But before I log off, I do want to give a shout out to Pramila, who I've been trying to connect with, because I know she's been very frustrated that people are not listening to her, the corruption that she's trying to expose for many months. I've been there with nursing homes last year, so I know how frustrated she is. And if you're listening, Pramila, I promise that I will try to connect with you again and be a help to you in your struggle as well. I wish I had the bandwidth to take on every corrupt thing that Cuomo has engaged in. But I don't. But I know that Pramila is very passionate. So a big shout out to her as well.
Oh, she's about to come on. We'll have to set up another time when you guys can overlap. If she were in the studio, I would just unleash her on you. Leslie, do you have any questions?
No, I just want to say, how does it feel, to be the victor here? Because he said that he was going to be, obviously it's not just about you, but on a personal level, he said he was going to destroy you, and the tables have turned, and it must be very personally satisfying on a, petty level.
Honestly, we're still in the thick of it, and we're still trying to get to accountability and make sure he doesn't escape accountability. So a few of us are consumed by trying to get to impeachment, trying to hold him accountable for his bad decisions. So I don't feel victorious until we can actually deliver the accountability that the state deserves.
Right, because as of now, he's protected from impeachment, right? Because he resigned to kind of like preemptive strike, or
well, that's what the assembly attorney has deemed, but we came up with our own legal counsel from Cornell University, which proves that it is our actually constitutional duty to see through impeachment if we do not see an elected official fit to serve in the public. So it's not, so the physical removal, it's not a physical removal, but it's removal of his criminal behavior and his history of criminality. That's our duty. And secondly, to make sure he doesn't run for office. Impeachment means he can't run for state office again.
And so what can we do here at the Katie Halper Show or out there for people who are watching? What can be done?
Just reach out to the Assembly and let the leadership, the chair of the Judiciary Committee, and the Speaker know that we need accountability. Impeachment doesn't equate to accountability.
Right. And last thing, just because you mentioned her, can we have a 2-minute chat with Pramilla?
Yeah, let her in, please.
All right. Pramilla Malick, welcome. This was unplanned. Let me unmute you. Hello? Uh-oh, unmute Pramilla. Oh my God, this is such a, it says that you muted yourself. What a metaphor for, I don't know what. There's a mute thing on this.
Oh, there you go.
Okay, there you go. Okay, you see?
Hey,
Unsilenced.
thank you for having me.
Thanks for coming on. And Assemblyman Kim is on his way out, but just wanted to give you guys the chance to, kibitz for a bit or to connect while you're two ships passing the night.
Nice to finally connect with you,
Oh, same here, Pramila. I apologize that we couldn't connect. I know we tried and play phone tag for a day or two.
You know what? What I would say to you is that we need to get at the full scope of the Cuomo administration corruption, which really began actually when he was running for Attorney General. In our case, the corruption scandal that impacted my community, that began way back in 2008, and it spanned, how many years now? More than 12 years, 14 years. So I think our community also deserves accountability and transparency. And I think that New York State as a whole, until we understand how this corruption operated, how it was able to usurp control over all of the state agencies. Until we understand that, we're never going to get rid of the real corruption, which is the big moneyed interest that put Cuomo in power and that sustained him for, throughout that time period.
Yeah, no, I agree with you 100%. I know there's a lot to uncover, and I'm taking one thing at a time because I don't have the bandwidth to do it all in my capacity. But I appreciate your advocacy. I know that you're constantly out there talking about the other corrupt things that's not getting heard. And I look forward to continue to stay in touch. And I'll continue to listen on after I log on to get a better sense of what you're pushing for and what I can do to be helpful in the future.
Yeah, I mean, what we're asking for is oversight hearings over the permitting of this project, for which Joseph Percoco has been convicted. He was his closest aide, and there was that long criminal trial. 2 people were convicted for that. So we are asking for oversight hearings to look at some of the evidence that was actually presented in the trial but not explored because it wasn't the subject of the trial.
May I ask who the electeds are that covers the site of the corruption?
Sure. So it was State Senator John Bonasek who resigned very shortly after Percoco's conviction. And he was very much implicated in the corruption as well. His son was attorney for the company during the entire permitting process while the father was lobbying for the company at the same time. So that was highly improper, huge conflict of interest. And I think it should, if it isn't illegal, it should be illegal. I think there might be some new laws that would make it clearly illegal at this point. But yeah, I mean, he ran out of town as soon as the conviction was announced. As soon as the indictment was announced, the chair of the DEC immediately resigned and left. The chair of the PSC immediately resigned and left. And it's no surprise because all of those agencies were involved in that process, in the corruption, in the improper influence. And one thing that Todd Howe had testified to, and I was at the trial every day, and I'm sad to say that the media didn't report like 95% of what was in the trial. But what Todd Howe testified to, which was very interesting, he said that no other administration had ever controlled state agencies the way Governor Cuomo did. He said he had never seen anything like it before. It was completely unprecedented. But, and this was something that as advocates, we were also told by a lot of the environmental groups and advocacy groups. They said, this all is directed 100% by Cuomo. Whereas in the past, the agencies had autonomy based on their expertise, based on their own knowledge and regulations. But that wasn't the case with this administration. And that really needs to be investigated. Again, so we can ensure that this never, ever happens again. And the corruption that was affected as a result of this is something that ratepayers throughout New York State, throughout downstate New York, in the lower Hudson Valley and New York City are paying for right now. So we're not only paying with our health and safety, we're not only paying because now we are afflicted with the pollution as a result of this, but ratepayers throughout New York City are also paying for directly as a result of that corruption.
Well, thank you for sharing all that. Katie, I'm gonna hop off in a second, but Pramila, I just wanted to let you know, just because I'm not out there talking about your particular, corrupt issue doesn't mean that we're trying to reduce you or not give you a voice to the larger space. I hope you don't think that that's the case. As you know, my background, the way that I landed here, it was very specific around the healthcare and nursing home sector. So that's been my fight, but doesn't mean that I'm trying purposely to reduce your voice in any kind of way. So I certainly hope that we can continue to stay in touch and talk and focus on the structural change that's required to root out the corruption in Albany.
No, absolutely. And, I admire the courage that it took for you to do what you did. I know that most politicians would not have that kind of courage. And sadly, victims of policy failures make the best advocates. So you've been a great advocate for that issue. I would just urge you to look at the fact that both emanate from the same cause. Both corruption actions really come from an administration run amok that ran everything in a dictatorial fashion for expediency and immediate self-interest, and did not look at the consequences, even when there were life and death consequences. And I think that's what you see both in your case as well as in our case. And in our case, that corruption spanned it, as I said, a good 14 years. Yeah.
Well, thank you, Katie, Leslie, for connecting us.
Thank you so much. Of course,
I'll check in with you
that
soon.
was unplanned. I didn't know. That was not a gotcha.
Good to see you, Pramila.
Nice to meet you.
Thank you so much,
care.
Assemblymember Kim. Thank you. Wow, that was great. I thought you were just going to come on one after the other, but then he mentioned you, so I expedited your entrance.
Oh, okay, that's good.
Yeah,
I'm glad he did.
Leslie. You and Pramila are old friends from a couple of episodes.
Yes,
yes.
From
Pramila on, yes. And Pramila's going to talk. She was on, of course, with Jamie Cromwell and Alexandria Villaseñor to talk about climate change. And we're going to bring on another person who, much like Pramila, has the receipts, although not for as long a time, but he's good at receipts. And that is none other than Jack Allison. Welcome, Jack. Hello.
Hi there. What's going on?
How are you? Good. You
right.
too.
How are you doing?
Good. I think you maybe need to be a little louder. Is that? Do I
need to turn up my mic or something like that?
I believe so. Am I correct, Leslie?
Yeah.
My settings are
okay,
proper
great.
here.
You're back.
Look at his haircut, Jack. What have you been up to?
Huh? Is this better? Am I louder
Yeah.
at all? Okay,
Yes,
great.
you are. Yeah.
Great. Perfect.
Well, welcome, Jack. Welcome back to the show.
Thanks for having me back. Good to see you again.
course,
Yeah, it's
you
been
too.
a little bit.
Yeah. And Pramilla Malick, Jack Allison.
Hi.
You both are big critics of the Democrats and of Cuomo. And Pramilla, we want to have you back on to talk about what Cuomo still needs to be called out for and investigated for. you referred to it a little bit during that interlude. And Jack wanted to have you on because you were one of the few people who really kept track of SKDK.
Sure.
Which is what
SKD Knickerbocker. I was looking it up again to try to remind myself, and I truly think the SKD maybe doesn't stand for anything, but it used to be SKD Knickerbocker, and now it just is officially SKDK. So they've even gotten rid of the Knickerbocker at this point.
Wow, they're such cowards. They couldn't even hold on to the Knickerbocker. They have to cover that up.
Right.
So do you want to, Pramila, just walk us through a little bit of just give us a little synopsis of what Cuomo still needs to be investigated for?
Well, we have to look at the big moneyed interests that brought Cuomo to power. The reason he was so powerful and the reason he was able to exercise unprecedented and unilateral control over New York State and all of its agencies and institutions was because of these big money donors. And he had 15 billionaire donors who really funded his war chest. And that's what made him so powerful. One of the companies that funded him, one of the a lobbying firm on behalf of a company was a company called Competitive Power Ventures. They build these fracked gas power plants all over the country, and they were obsessed with New York City because New York City is the second largest consumer of power in the world. So it was a project that was high stakes for the entire fracking enterprise. So every gas company that had an interest in shale gas in Pennsylvania, they were banking on this project because of the huge market that it provides. And so this company really, started grooming Cuomo when he was Attorney General. And, donating to him, funding him. And then and this is their business model, right? Because the executive of this company, his father runs a lobbying firm known as Black Manafort, Stone and Kelly, which included Roger Stone and Paul Manafort. And then the father of this executive, Peter Senior Kelly, who was a huge Democratic Party person. He was a chair of fundraising for like a decade at the Democratic Party. So he's very, very influential in the Democratic Party. And so they're the ones who came up with this business model of, fund, donate to both parties, both sides, whoever wins, wins. And the second they win, you start calling in the favors. So that's what they did with Cuomo. They donated to him, brought him into power. And what's really interesting and what feeds conspiracy theories in Orange County is the fact that Roger Stone, who was a partner in this firm, publicly took credit for the downfall of Eric Schneiderman. And then, of course, I'm sorry, not Eric Schneiderman, I'm sorry, Spitzer, Elliot Spitzer. And that Cuomo came to power on the fall of Elliot Spitzer. So that feeds a lot of conspiracy theories, and it's so ironic that now he's going down in a sex scandal as well.
Right.
But at the end of the day, behind all of this, everybody must be scratching their head saying, when did the Democratic Party suddenly care about sexual harassment? And certainly what Cuomo was accused of is as bad as it is, and I agree that it's bad. It's not as bad as what Tara Reid accuses Joe Biden of, right? So how is one guy gets a pass and another guy is canceled, right? Especially after being like nearly glorified to no end for a year almost.
Like homosexuals?
Yeah. So, everybody must be scratching their heads. Well, here's the thing. When big money and interests want you in power, you're in power. When they don't, you're out. It doesn't matter if you're Republican or Democrat. They control both parties with money. We live, as Jamie said in his interview, we live in a system of legalized bribery. There's very little difference between the two parties. The two parties, they work together to affect the policy interest of the oligarchs. We live in an oligarchy. I think even some Princeton academics had validated that thesis. And so this is why you have all of these policy failures, whether it's on healthcare or this power plant, which greatly, when you think about the second largest consumer of power in the world being plugged into frack gas dependency for the next 40 years, we're talking about a major assault on the climate, when we all understand we have a climate crisis, right? Not to mention the pollution. Let's just look at the math. According to MIT, 56,000 people die annually from air pollution, specifically due to exposure to power plants. There's another study coming out of Australia that says 8 million people die a year from air pollution. And then another study that says 5 million people die a year from climate change. So there are life and death consequences to these policy decisions that are being made in service of these big moneyed interests. And that, it's bad enough when, they're buying influence to get, the road built to feed their warehouse or whatever. But, to buy influence for either, this construction of this power plant and the permitting of this power plant, or even, the policy decisions on COVID and the nursing homes. And, I have friends whose parents died in nursing homes as well. So, in both of these cases, we see a complete, utter, egregious disregard for human life, with this power plant. The power plant would never have been permitted otherwise if it were not for the money that was being given legally through campaign donations, and then illegally is what Joe Percoco got caught for. In the level of corruption, he was probably here, and then Cuomo's here, but the company is way off the screen, and that's until we start really confronting the companies, their executives, and the corruption at its very core. They're just going to be playing roulette with the politicians. They'll just replace one for another. There's already indication that Hochul is getting all the money that Cuomo got from the same big money donors. So all of that's not going to change. Tish James, I'm not optimistic about her either. She blatantly refuses to investigate the power plant corruption when you had two people convicted based on these actions and she's refusing to investigate. There's no rational explanation for it other than improper influence. Corruption is still ever present. It hasn't gone anywhere. Why does the assembly chair not want to have impeachment hearings? Where is the accountability? Where is the oversight hearings? We were promised oversight hearings. We presented all of our evidence to the chair of the oversight committee, government oversight in the assembly, to the chair of the judiciary in the state senate. What's wrong with these people? They're just cowards. I just have to say they're cowards. They're easily manipulated. The big moneyed interests control the policy. And until that changes, we're never going to get the things we need in this country. We're never going to get climate policy. We're never going to get Medicare for all. We're never going to get healthcare. The reason that the New York State Health Act never passed is because Cuomo empowered the IDC and literally gave control over the state Senate to Republicans. That's why the New York Health Act never got passed.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad. Thank you for coming on and reminding people about this. And we want to make sure that people know about can you tell people about the
petition?
Petition, I think it's on, yeah.
Yeah, so we have not, we've not given up on appealing to these people for whatever, humanity or sense of responsibility is left in them. So we still are also not giving them the opportunity to say, what power plant? We didn't know about it. Mm-hmm. So we have a petition. It's tinyurl.com/builtonbribes. And we are asking for oversight hearings. We are asking for an investigation by Attorney General Tish James and the chairs of the Oversight Committee, James Skoufis, in the Assembly. And we are also appealing to the chairs of the State Senate, the leadership of the State Senate in the Assembly, Andrea Stewart Cousins and Carl Hasty. I don't know. I've heard it said both ways. So.
Yeah. People in their haste don't know how to say it. Just kidding. Hasty. Yeah. Okay, great. And we'll link to that in the YouTube description. Great. All righty.
Hell yeah.
Right.
It sounds really fucked up. I mean, especially this thing you were talking about, Pramila, about like this, you know, sets New York to just basically be on fracking for the next 40 years, which is just, you know, wonderful. Like maybe it's basically signing a contract to be on fracking for maybe longer than we have. Maybe longer than we have left.
That's a good idea, actually.
I'm not signing any 40-year contracts the way things are going.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, what's new? I don't know. You
got a haircut.
I got a haircut. I'm no longer long-haired, and everything. I mean, I basically haven't left this room. You know what I mean? It still is Delta variant and all this kind of stuff. But I just been sitting here pretty much.
Well, your guy, you know, we did a live tweet. I think we tweeted out who's worse, Cuomo or Newsom, and now we won't really know because our guy wasn't allowed to serve his full term, sadly.
Well, that might be the case here too. You know, that might also be the case here too. I mean, the recall is hilarious. The recall is, of course, California politics hilarious. It's really way closer than it should be with the recall. Newsom has all this money. They've apparently been spending it all on television ads, even though nobody watches television. And he's like,
have they tried to buy any on Jack AM?
No. Sadly, they should. Although we have more East Coast viewers because it's so early in the morning. But yeah, Newsom continues to poll like within 2 points. Like it's always like 49 want to recall him, 51 say stay. And the way our system works is so stupid here in California. It's if he gets recalled, whichever person who got the most votes just on the second part of the ballot just becomes governor. There's no runoff or anything like that. So you could become governor with like 15% of the vote, you know? And the people who are running here are like a YouTube finance guy who might be our next fucking California governor just because he's the only one with D next to his name. There's Larry Elder, the conservative talk radio guy, just jumped in at the end and now is like polling the top for Republicans. I mean, I guess whoever wins is only in there for a year and a half, but I don't know. I mean, I hate Newsom. I think Newsom is so bad. There's no other good options. It's going to be really hard for me not to, press the button that says fire the governor. But the other options are so bad. I just don't know what I'm going to be able to do. It makes me feel like I'm like, the left should have put someone up, if ever a good chance to just steal the California governorship, but we didn't put anybody up, and now it's just like a Bitcoin finance YouTuber versus fucking Larry Elder.
Wow, that's
and that's how the game is played, by the way, is to make sure that your choices are all bad.
Yeah, I mean, there's no win.
Don't vote,
whatever happens with this recall, we lose here in California.
I mean, the visuals are just overwhelming. The thing is absolute monstrosity. It was built in a critical environmental area on over 100 acres of wetland. I mean, based on all the federal and state regulations that exist, it should never have been permitted. It's violated nearly a dozen state and federal laws.
This is what our Democrats do, though. I mean, you're absolutely right that it is just like, Democrats like to pass very sweeping environmental regulations and then just like say, well, that one doesn't count for you when it's a donor. Right. It just like we like to get all the credit for passing the strictest environmental regulations in California. And then as soon as it's inconvenient for anyone, we're like, OK, well, we'll give you like a carve out.
Yeah. Yeah. Next time we'll have you on again, and everyone can go to what is it? Built on Bribes.
tinyurl.com.
Yeah.
/built on bribes. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Bye.
Cool.
Bye.
Talk to you.
Thank you. All righty. Well, guys, thank you so much for joining. And if you're just tuning in, this is the Katie Halper Show. We're so happy to have Jack Allison back on the show, and
glad to be back. It's good time.
Yes, it's good times. By the way, we did show this on the last episode, so I'll put together. I'll put together a clip from the last episode. That's why I got to say you got to donate to the Patreon, patreon.com/the Katie Halper Show, because we got to get the production we're going to have this all set up, have a suite and nice, someone will play it live while color correcting it in real time and doing some audio editing and crossfades. It's going to be great.
Yeah.
But Jack, tell us about, there's so many stories we'd love to talk about with you, and Leslie started gathering some, I started gathering some, but let's talk about SKDK.
Sure. Yeah.
Tell us who they are, what they have to do with Cuomo and Biden.
What I just said, a few minutes ago, that perhaps it doesn't stand for anything, that was incorrect. And you can find that out from basically the first sentence of the Wikipedia page. So, really shows sort of
it's
like
hiding in plain sight. Yeah.
And what it stands for is Squire Knapp Dunn Communication. So that is Anita Dunn. Squire, it's the names of the three people that started it. The most important of which being Anita Dunn. So Anita Dunn is basically what SKD Knickerbocker was a bunch of Obama, people who would end up going on to work for a lot of Democrats, creating a consultancy firm. So in 2004, they created a consultancy firm, and this firm went on to work for Barack Obama, Joe Biden, Andrew Cuomo, Bloomberg, just your murderer's row of all of the worst Democrats, of the last 20 years. And then after the Obama administration, they went truly fully mask off at that time. Like, I think at that point, everybody was figuring like, well, we're not going to have to go back to Washington, D.C. We're not going to be part of a campaign ever again where anyone's ever going to care about, what we've done. And so after the Obama White House, they went fully mask off, and SKDK full on, was, lobbying for the Keystone Pipeline and stuff like that. You know what I mean? Like, they were just actively doing like evil, like full on sort of even milquetoast Democrats would be like, this is just full on evil stuff. I believe that they also, I couldn't find the exact news about it, but they were also, I think advocating for someone like Postmates in New York so that they were able to classify tips as part of the hourly wage. Like, just truly gross shit, and then Joe Biden, the time comes around, it's 2020 at this point. Joe Biden is limping in at like third place in the at fifth place, I feel like, at this point, in the Democratic primary. And so SKDK, hot off of all their sort of like very, very ugly and fucked up lobbying, like basically takes over the Joe Biden campaign and just starts fully running it. And Anita Dunn becomes the like communications director of the Biden team. So Anita Dunn is the head over there at SKDK, who was also responsible for things like taking a call with Harvey Weinstein. When Harvey Weinstein was having his troubles and his article was about to come out, Anita Dunn is who he turned to for advice on how to weather this kind of stuff. SKDK and the folks involved there also very, God, I can't remember the word, but, a big part of founding the Time's Up organization, which was founded basically by CAA and these SKDK people, including Anita Dunn, who was their like head of communications there too.
CAA is for the non-Californians.
That's the Creative Artists Agency, a very successful and huge talent agency here that represents all of the pedophile sex criminals here in Hollywood. And so, Time's Up, Me Too, from its beginning, if you really even want to believe that it's like a people's movement,
Sorry.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Sorry, I was opening.
Time's Up. Even if you want to believe that Me Too is in some way natural and was a people's movement, in some ways it was. It was organic. Yeah. A hashtag got started. Now, very quickly, Alyssa Milano jumps on that hashtag and then starts claiming like, I made this. You know what I mean? Like, Alyssa Milano kind of gets on board with it and it, gives it a lot of attention and then starts being like, I created this. I created the Me Too movement. So whether you believe or not that Me Too is a fully organic movement, and I kind of tend to believe in some ways it started that way, Time's Up was a total, lassoing and corporatization, of this Me Too movement. You know what I mean? And it has basically, since its inception, which was, remember everybody, what was it? Everybody wore like Time's Up pins to the Oscars or some shit like 2 years ago. They were all wearing like, all the men were wearing like white suits or some fucking stupid thing, and Time's Up was like fully sponsoring the Oscars and everything. It just was so, there was this big rollout of like, okay, there's the Me Too movement, and now like if you want to do a Me Too, you go to the Time's Up organization. And so Time's Up, of course, was started by a bunch of people who have vested interest in powerful men like retaining their power. And so Time's Up, in a very real way, became a very literal like gatekeeper of whose accusations are acceptable or not. And usually what was the determining factor of whether an accusation was acceptable or not was whether this was a powerful Democrat who they work with.
Right.
We know in the 2020 election, obviously, that Tara Reid went to Time's Up thinking that this is the organization that's the pro bono law organization for women to go to, and was basically strung up for months as they sort of did fake make work to like hold her up through the primary, where one of the people who was like ahead at Time's Up was also working as like the fucking communications director for Biden, so Time's Up, and then of course Time's Up ultimately, one of the heads of Time's Up just had to resign because of, surprise, like advising Andrew Cuomo through his sex crime scandal, so we're seeing a very and let me try to remember this person's name. It was a Kaplan, Roberta Kaplan. Roberta Kaplan resigned.
Robbie, they call her apparently Robbie.
Robbie resigned because she offered assistance to Andrew Cuomo during his scandal of doing basically decades worth of sex crimes.
But Jeff, you have to understand, much like I think Anita with Harvey Weinstein, Robbie didn't take any money, I don't think.
I think that is the case.
Kindness of their own hearts.
Yes, the Time's Up organization not only offers pro bono services to women accusers, but also, to be fair, offers pro bono services to the accused as well. So it really is. This is really the centrist Me Too. This is the centrist Me Too organization, in every sense of the word, where they offer advisement to the men who have been accused, and they offer some lawyers for the women who are doing the accusing. But this is a real pattern now, and Time's Up was started by CAA, and we're now seeing basically every Democrat who's the last two major Democrat sex scandals have an element of, and also Time's Up tried to kill the story, which that's a little bit fucking weird. I also agree with what Pramila was saying before, which is not to compare these, because I actually do think that everything that was described about Andrew Cuomo is absolutely horrific, and there's also just the toxic workplace shit is just so fucking ugly with all the Cuomo stuff. But it is true that what Biden is accused of goes far further than what Cuomo was accused of. And you almost saw Biden, like when Biden was finally forced to comment on it, he was like very careful about his comment. I feel like I saw a lot of news that was like, Biden is like very forceful. He was not very forceful. He was kind of meek about, they were like, do you think he should resign? He's like, yes I do. I do think he should resign. And then also somebody asked him, like, do you think he used images of you in his stuff to say that it was appropriate touching? And he's like, well, I think some of the touching was appropriate, probably, but some of it wasn't. And I'm like, yeah, you're saying that because you're Mr. Inappropriate Touching guy, and you're a little bit nervous about the fact that all this is even going down. And I think Biden's reaction to this was like, get this man out of office like today, so people don't think too hard about this. Like, let's get this out of the news like right now.
That montage was, I couldn't believe that montage of that Cuomo put together. I mean, also, like, you're out of touch and entitled when the montage that should be Oppo is something you put together. It's so funny. He's like, here's 100 images of me being inappropriate with people and kissing them on the cheek and shit. So fucking ridiculous. It's good that Cuomo's out. A part of me, if I want to be semi-conspiratorial about it, I'm like,
you know, he sure is out over just all this personnel issue stuff and not anything to do with the absolutely fucked up fraud that went on at nursing homes. You know what I mean?
Deadly
and
fraud.
There are other governors who kind of did similar fudging of the numbers. And that might be kind of a little more of a can of worms to open up. You know what I mean? But I'm glad that he's out. And I do think he sucks majorly. But I do agree with you, Katie, that I think he's leaving an opening for himself. He's like, I don't want to fuck up the government right now, and I'm saying that these are all false, so that he can at some point run again and be like, now everything's calm, and you know, you want Cuomo back or whatever.
Yeah, I think so. And as Ron Kim said, Assemblyman Kim said, it's a soft landing that he kind of orchestrated.
Yeah,
a soft landing for himself. Yeah.
I mean, he did a full fucking hour of accuser smearing on ny.gov, on literally like governor.ny.gov. He got his lawyer out, and then he got in on the fun too. He did like a full movie length amount of accuser smearing before being like, but with that said, I guess I'll quit because I think that'll be better.
Yeah.
You know?
And he always has to mention his daughters. It's so gross.
So gross. I feel like, I mean, whatever, you know, I'm sure that they're sickos too because they come from a political family, but you feel like you wish
feel bad for them, kind of, right?
Yeah, you feel a little bad for them until you're like, they probably are sickos, but you know, you do feel a little bad.
It's kind of how I feel about Chelsea Clinton, which can be a divisive topic, but I'm not afraid to admit it. I feel bad for her.
You can feel bad for Chelsea Clinton, and then after like half a minute, I'm like, but they probably like were serving her like blood in like a baby's bottle. You know what I mean? Like,
which is why you both feel bad for her and think of her as a monster.
I'm like,
you know, we can have those two things at the same time in our head at the same time. And then Chris is just the best.
I mean, the Chris of it all is so funny. CNN is such a joke. CNN is such, like, how can CNN, I mean, actually, to be truly honest with you, Katie, the thing I found funniest about all of the Chris of it all is Brian Stelter.
I was going to say that.
I love watching Brian Stelter go on the air and be like, actually, it was like perfectly okay what happened between his brother and who couldn't like stand with their brother or whatever. I'm like, you're supposed to be like the media. This is the ombudsman of CNN. Basically,
this is. I mean,
well, actually, he more acts like the ombudsman of like all of media. Actually, on CNN, he covers all the news
Fox,
agencies and sits in judgment of all of them, not just CNN.
That's what his whole show is like watching Fox and being like, oh, how dare they over at Fox? And then he does like a whole segment about like actually. The funniest thing in his segment about Chris Cuomo was he was like, do you think it's really a punishment for people to have to be like put on break from their show and sit around the pool?
That was the best.
What's really a punishment is when you go in the media and say that like then hold them accountable. I'm like, no, dude. Chris Cuomo doesn't give a fuck about a Deadline.com article about how his bosses are perturbed at him or whatever.
I mean, also, it's like it's really funny because like the way that he was disciplined was CNN saying he maybe kind of made a mistake, and they were so judgmental that he made a mistake. They were so judgmental that Chris Cuomo was like, yeah, maybe, but I'm a family man before a job man.
Yeah.
So it was like acceptable enough for him not to apologize. And also CNN said he could take a leave of absence. He didn't, and nothing happened.
Yeah, that's basically what it is. Is like the thing that's crazy about it is not so much first of all, just that CNN ever thought it was appropriate to air a comedy hour with like Chris Cuomo and his brother the governor literally while a pandemic is happening. Like even if none of the rest of this had happened with Andrew Cuomo, like that is just the worst journalistic malpractice I've ever here's the thing that's so ridiculous about all this is like I actually wouldn't give a shit if CNN would just acknowledge that they're Bravo TV, that they're just watch what happens live. Like stop acting like what you're doing is so serious. That's what pisses me off about it is that they like want to act like we are actually the fifth estate. You know, we're the fourth estate, you know, the work that goes on and what journalists do is so important and all this kind of shit. I'm like, you are this is the goofball like people in power network. You know what I mean? Like just acknowledge that you're Ellen for like the DC set. You know, like don't try to like you can't do both. You can't like pretend that you're, fucking, you're this embodiment of all the whole, First Amendment or whatever, and then also be doing nightly comedy routines between the governor and his fucking brother who you have on the air. That's the other thing about Chris Cuomo, is that it's like, everyone's like, the big conversation is like, is it journalistically okay for him to, talk about it or not talk about his brother? Can we all just like call out the elephant in the room that the only reason he has his job is because of who his brother is? You know what I mean? Like, Chris Cuomo is not a talented newsman. It's not like he was doing like local news or some shit like that. He just got the job because his brother is the governor and his father was the governor before him. So that's like another element of this, is like, well, the only reason you have the job kind of just got like fired from his job. You know what I mean? Like, why do we still have you on the air?
It would just be too much to happen to one. It would be like the Kennedys,
for them to acknowledge, for them to even acknowledge the like, we only had you on the air because you're a Cuomo and the brand is fucked now. So,
Well, Brian Stelter said that he's a TV star. I couldn't believe it. It was like he literally said that it wouldn't be a punishment to discipline the person because he's so rich and he would sit by the pool, which is like, no one rich should ever face any work discipline.
I know, that's like, so nobody rich ever should get fired ever. Why the hell did you? What about trying to get rid of Trump? Like, what? Then he would have just gone and sat by Mar-a-Lago. Then why the hell? Why try to do anything ever to a rich person? Because they literally could just go to a pool. Right.
If anything, you should get more responsibility. That should be your punishment. Yeah.
They should be promoted.
Yeah, exactly. Promoted. The problem is Trump was the highest that he couldn't get even
that's
higher.
True.
Yeah, he should have been made the head of. He should have taken on what's his name's job. Zoom and Tubin. He should have gotten his job too.
Didn't Tubin just wrote an article that was like, "Don't prosecute Trump" or something?
Oh yeah,
like
what the hell is that?
So funny. Just
surprised.
What do we need with all these characters? I don't know. What do we need with all them? Yeah. Like, Tubin is a guy who jacked off on fucking Zoom, and and we still just can't always but have the same cast of characters on the news. Like, they can't get another guy who knows the law like Jeffrey Tubin. It's got to be the same jack off on Zoom guy they got to get back. Like, what even goes on?
Yeah. Also, he's terrible on Assange. He's so dumb. He's so bad on Assange and Snowden. He calls him like a traitor. He calls Snowden a traitor. And he, like, Leslie, you pointed this out a couple months, I guess, when he went back to CNN, when they're talking about how he has a scandal. It's like his first sex scandal, and the woman on CNN was so awkward. She clearly didn't want to interview him, and she was like, "So there's nothing else is going to come out? No other sex scandal?" She's like, "Absolutely not." Meanwhile, he had I don't care about this, but like, he had a kid with a woman while he was married, and then tried to get out of paying maternity.
See, like, that's kind of scummy. That's scummy. Yeah. And again,
it's like, I don't care about this stuff, but obviously we live in a society where that stuff is, like, considered a scandal.
I think it's not nice to not pay for the kid. You know what I mean? I don't really, you can cheat. It's not, whatever goes on in people's relationships is not really my business, but the not paying for the kid, that's not that nice. That's not good, you got to pay for the kid, I guess.
Yeah, you got to pay for the kid. He's such a prick.
Gotta pay for the kid.
Gotta pay for the kid. Yeah. What else should we talk about? We can always go back to SKDK. We should do a presentation. We'll do a slideshow at some point, because all the cast of characters, all these fake feminists.
I mean, Anita Dunn is now in the Biden White House. There was actually a great Dana Bash has a. Let me even see if I can find this or something to send it to you. She does some kind of CNN thing called like the Badass Women of Washington, and they did one.
The Badass.
It's the Badass Women of Washington from it's the Bash Ass, the Bash. If you want to try to play that is the Dana Bash profile of Anita Dunn in her Badass Women of Washington series, where they have graffiti that looks like badass and stuff like that.
Okay, I'll get that 1 second. One other person, though, Mark Penn?
Yes, Mark Penn. Yes,
so Mark Penn advised Trump, and his private equity firm co-owns SKDK.
Mark Penn is a former Hillary guy. He was Hillary's like top pollster. Then he went on to be a Trump advisor, and then his firm, the Stagwell Group, bought SKDK, which then ended up going on to run the Biden campaign in a very real way. And you can actually see this now with how Biden has actually been as president. A Trump advisor like bought the Biden campaign, and like that's who's in his White House.
Great.
And who's like really running shit is all these SKDK people. Although I will say, Katie, I gotta admit, to be honest with you, I have been shocked by Biden on Afghanistan this week, and I don't think it's bad. I'm like in favor of it, and I'm in favor of the unilateral withdrawal. And I've been kind of surprised by. I mean, his speech was hilarious, blaming it all on the Afghans, and so that was pretty funny. Him blaming it on the Afghans, but I am surprised by him digging his heels in and being like, "No, fuck it, we are just pulled out." I'm like, okay, all right, Biden. That's the first thing where I've been like, all right. Okay.
I know, it's very weird. I mean, Trump, I mean, I feel like it's not as hard for us to contemplate that, because unlike people with Trump derangement syndrome, we understand that bad people can do the right thing for the wrong reasons.
You want out. You know what I mean? Yeah. You know, and everybody.
Look at Mark Penn, by the way. Look at that face. He just looks like a scumbag.
Good God.
Yeah. Yeah, we should we watch some of that? I never.
If you want to pull up the badass women,
reviewed the speech. The speech.
The speech.
Yeah. The speech, definitely though. Right?
His speech was very strange. It was, it was very like low key. I mean, I have to admit that I am pleasantly surprised with how much. Although it is hilarious, they have still subsequently deployed like almost 10,000 troops or something like that.
Right.
Like, so it's like in some ways, I'm like, I like that he's pushing back. And by the way, it really is like the media wants us back there like today. The media,
God, yeah.
I've never seen anything like this. And this week also, whenever I turn on MSNBC, and MSNBC is really bad about this in general,
of course, yeah.
But every channel, they're just having analysts on saying shit that they're like, people are sending me on my phone. They're like, they're saying the Taliban is starting to beat women, and I'm getting on my phone. I'm like, why aren't you like showing it on the air then? You're just saying you got it on your phone. There's so much misinformation going on about Afghanistan.
Article. Okay, so first of all, I have to honor my mom. So food, she wrote, funny how SDK people in and out of the Obama White House while their company was running campaigns for industry groups. Yeah.
I mean, that's how it works. That is literally how it works.
And then Mom, I don't know what you mean here. You wrote something else. Where was it? You said something about Michelle Obama. Where is this?
Food industry while Michelle did her nutrition program. That's true too.
Right.
That's true too.
That's also true. Nora knows.
That is true too.
Nora has the receipts. Yeah.
A lot of public-private partnerships in the Obama administration.
Yeah, and all these, we'll have to do another one where we go through these awful people, all these fake feminists. They're just so incredibly bad.
The Anita Dunns of the world, and we've seen. I still think Me Too is more or less dead. Although I was surprised that Cuomo resigned. But I do think that the fact that Biden is in office and that the people who helped literally kill the Tara Reade story, it worked. You know what I mean? It all worked, and Tara Reade is fully in the eyes of Americans a discredited person, which even though there's really not a lot of evidence, and in fact there's evidence to the contrary, but it worked. They did the classic 1990s style discredit the victim, and most people just don't look into it further than that.
Right. And I mean, I'll never forget, I'm almost impressed by they had the gall to just do a collection of interviews with her landlords.
Oh yeah.
I mean, that article is one of the most obscene I've ever seen in my life. Just 6 tales from landlords. Literally most of the stories being I had to repair things that the security deposit covered.
Yeah. Yeah. Her dog left the shit. She left a dog shit.
There was the walls were were busted up. Like they had paintings hung You know, it was an absolute horror show in there.
And they didn't even say, it would be one thing if we were like, we spoke to a bunch of her landlords. They just presented it like various people she knew along the way.
Yeah.
And I remember it dawning on me, I'm like, wait, this is the person she paid rent to. This is the person she paid rent to. It was just so gross.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not saying anything new, but do you know about this? Can you talk about SKDK and Pegasus?
Yeah. So Pegasus, I believe, is an Israeli. Or it was
really,
Pegasus is Pegasus is a spyware that was created by an Israeli security company, and it is just an it's a intelligence gathering and surveillance software. And SKD Knickerbocker basically does PR for them. So in between, working with the human rights campaign and stuff like that, and all these kind of like publicly sort of liberal causes, they're also doing campaigning for the pipeline, and they're doing literal PR for, Israeli security firms trying to push surveillance software, and again, this is what I was worried about during the 2020 election, and I think for the most part has been validated by reality. It's like Joe Biden is not going to be the president. Like that's even like why I don't even care that much when people are like, here's what Biden said about the crime bill in like 1990. I'm like, that man's brain is not even there. It doesn't matter what Joe Biden believes. It matters all the SKDK like psychos that are staffing and are, standing around him and telling him what to say. You know what I mean? Like, and these are the people. It's all the, money first corporate psychos who came out of the Obama White House and wanted to cash in. And so, now they're back in the White House again.
So awful. We have a bunch of other great stories. Which one should we go with? Oh, and by the way, if people don't know, I forgot because Jack used to be a co-host. So Jack is the co-host of Struggle Session. He's also the host of Morning AM Jack.
Jack AM.
I'm sorry. I always do that, even though it's literally behind you. Oh, wow. You guys, I don't even have one of my things up. I don't even have one.
Oh, I got the logos up all over the place. Look at that. Jack AM. I got Struggle Session 2. I got all of it.
Let's see. There you go. How's that? Do you like that one or this one?
Oh, that's good. That's almost like you're putting it in Leslie's, though.
I know. I don't know what to do. I can try to switch myself, but I'm not sure how to do that. Let's see.
Oh, well, that's that.
No.
Uh-oh.
Hold on. Let me try to remove Leslie.
All right. There we go.
Okay. Now let me
There we go.
Now it's in your corner.
Okay. That's not bad.
Sorry. I don't know how to do it.
That's fine.
That's fine. Yeah. Yeah.
That's fine.
So should we watch? Oh, thank you, Olympia Logic. Thanks for that. Thank you for that. Let's see. Okay, let's watch this Afghanistan video. Do we want to keep watching the Colbert, Leslie?
I'm fine to watch his speech.
Okay.
Oh, let me see. I had to pull it back up.
All right, let's do this speech. This is actually, I read it, but I didn't watch it. So you're going to have a, not to set the expectations too high, but okay.
There we go. We accomplished our goals.
Good afternoon. I want to speak today to the unfolding situation in Afghanistan, the developments that have taken place in the last week, and the steps we're taking to address the rapidly evolving events. My national security team and I have been closely monitoring the situation on the ground in Afghanistan and moving quickly to execute the plans we have put in place to respond to every constituency,
we did it.
And contingency, including the rapid collapse.
Okay, so he made a mistake, right? Constituency and contingency?
Yes, he did say we had every constituency covered.
But I want to remind everyone how we got here and what America's interests are in Afghanistan. We went to Afghanistan almost 20 years ago with clear goals. Get those who attacked us on September 11, 2001.
We got them.
And make sure Al-Qaeda could not use Afghanistan as a base from which to attack us again. We did that. We severely degraded Al-Qaeda in Afghanistan. We never gave up the hunt for
there we go. That sounds a lot better.
We got him. Oh, sorry about that.
A decade ago.
No worries.
Our mission in Afghanistan was never supposed to have been nation building. It was never supposed to be creating a unified, centralized democracy. Our only vital national interest in Afghanistan remains today what it has always been, preventing a terrorist attack on America's homeland. I've argued for many years that our mission should be narrowly focused on counterterrorism, not counterinsurgency or nation building. That's why I opposed the surge when it was proposed in 2009 when I was vice president.
Awkward.
And that's why as president, adamant, we focus on the threats we face today in 2021, not yesterday's threats. Today, the terrorist threat has metastasized well beyond Afghanistan. Al-Shabaab in Somalia.
So it's gonna work.
I mean, it is funny. He's laying out like, here's where we are going to have.
I know exactly. Where do we invade next?
Everybody in the, everybody in the military-industrial complex. Don't worry too much. We are going to be spending a lot of money on stupid wars for no reason. Don't worry too much, everybody.
We're just diversifying our portfolio.
Yes, we're moving around a little bit.
Yeah. So, guys, this is the game plan. In case you want to know where we're going next, here we go. Ready?
Don't worry.
The terrorist threat has metastasized well beyond Afghanistan. Al-Shabaab in Somalia. Al-Qaeda in the Arabian Peninsula.
Syria,
of course.
To create a caliphate in Syria and Iraq.
A caliphate.
And establishing affiliates in multiple countries in Africa and Asia.
We knew that. China.
These threats warrant our attention and our resources.
He's teleprompting
We conduct effective counterterrorism missions against terrorist groups in multiple countries.
When?
Where we don't have permanent
military
presence.
We don't have permanent. Okay, well, Hey, listen, the way I feel about all this is I actually feel like so much of this speech is bullshit. But in the end, what he's saying is like, we're just going to stick with this and that's that. And I do have to stand with that.
Quickly and
I mean, I just don't know what to stand with. Like, what's his other options? Like, we're going to go back. I mean, it sounds like that's actually what he's doing just because he's sending a bunch of troops.
It's true, yeah.
Like, I don't know. I don't know if we have to hand it to him, like, for what, because it seems very clear to me, like, we need to pull out, but the way Biden did it seemed fairly disastrous and not the way he should have done it, where we were supposed to get all of, like, our spies and shit out, right? Like, they even get him, like, they sent the troops back first, expecting the Afghan forces to stand up and protect, like, the embassies and all the thousands and thousands of informants.
As someone who is a big believer, in China's Belt and Road Initiative, and who thinks that perhaps the Taliban being in charge and China working with the Taliban will create a better relationship there. I like that they left all the spies and all the weapons there. I'm very happy with that they left a bunch of Tomahawk missiles and helicopters and shit.
Well, not just spies, but it just seems like it seemed the way
the people who are at risk.
Yeah, the way Biden did the pullout is as botched as anything else he's done during his entire administration. That should not be missed in the people who want us to stay there forever versus the people who just like. There's a middle ground to say that obviously whatever the Biden administration does is going to do poorly. So pulling out the way they did, and several months after they were supposed to pull out, like what were they doing? What did he do differently than Trump? Like in the intervening 6 months, like how is this any different?
I mean, like, no one does anything, and one of the things I do think that this Afghanistan withdrawal shows, and also everything in the Biden administration has shown is this idea of what Biden ran on and what Democrats like to sell of this like sort of utmost professional competency. I'm like, you guys can't fucking get anything done. Like, the Afghanistan withdrawal is totally disastrous, and especially as far as leaving people there and leaving a fucking bunch of military bases with guns laying around and shit like that. The same as like I think the COVID plan and like the eviction crisis. It's also been totally mismanaged. Like between Trump and Biden, like what we see is the White House doing nothing until the last minute and then being like, well, I guess let's just roll the dice. Fuck it. Like they're like, I guess an eviction moratorium's gonna happen. Fuck it. They're like, yeah, we have to withdraw by Afghanistan today. Let's go. Just go. Fuck. Just do it. I thought it was also really funny, by the way, the hubris of Biden trying to be on vacation and Jen Psaki being on an auto reply on her email the week that they fucking withdrew from Afghanistan. That is the funniest fucking most hubris I've ever seen.
Which is saying a lot for Biden.
It really is. It's so funny.
By the way, shout out to Lisa Mojica. He's Catholic. Explains the botched pullout. Sorry.
Yeah. Very good joke. Chad, I have to ask you, if nobody can get this, the viewers of the Katie Halper show should be able to hold two ideas in your head at the same time. We need to leave Afghanistan, and Joe Biden screwed up leaving Afghanistan. You should be capable of holding both those ideas in your head at the same time, even if no one else in the world can.
I mean, literally, like, it is just like, if you want to backed out by today, just start filling, like when you move apartments, you got to move the stuff. You know what I mean? Like, you got to just load all the guns into, like, I don't know, like bags or something. Right. And
you move your TV before you move like your dump your trash.
Well, look, as someone who is,
I moved to college with trash bags. That's what I used to move to college.
Exactly. Just use the trash bags at the very least. Throw a bunch of drone control devices into your trash bags.
Right.
Now, listen, I am speaking, and I like the chaos of the Afghanistan withdrawal, because I'm speaking as someone who wants to see the U.S. lose its superpower status. And so, in a lot of ways, I think this being the most botched and ridiculous and obviously botched withdrawal has done a lot to sort of remove the idea that America is in any way a competent or threatening superpower. And I think that'll ultimately be good for the future.
Jack, that's the thing I'm scared. You just laid out the exact reasoning behind why we actually got into the Iraq war.
What?
Because our botched Vietnam experiment led the neocons to...
Yes, it got everybody got all revanchist.
We've just started the cycle over again.
Wow, it's Jack and George Bush. George Bush died,
but didn't
father,
Spain,
and Jack is here.
Didn't Spain, when they were getting toward the end of their empire, didn't Spain have a bunch of wars where they just got their asses kicked over and over again until everybody just stopped taking them seriously as a world power? I feel like that's more where we're at now, is like, we literally, all we do, it's so funny, all we do is we spin the globe and we try to find literally the weakest army on the globe. We're like the Viet Cong, that's the weakest one. We can't go to the Soviets, we can't actually fight against the Soviets, but let's go fucking fight. We can't even fight Cuba. We're like, Cuba's too scary. Let's go to the Viet Cong. They're just like in trees. We can do it. And we got our fucking asses kicked. The same with the Taliban. We were like, what's the easiest army on the earth? I guess the Taliban, they're these like guys that live in fucking caves that we sent like AKs to. Like, it'll be nothing. And then we got fucking our asses kicked for 20 years until we lost.
Yeah, who would have seen that coming? Who would have thunk? Yeah.
Well, the thing we must say is that we did not lose this war. The people who are actually fighting the war won. The military contractors, they got all their money. That's true. That was the point of this
that is
war.
The point. Yeah,
they got the money. That's what the money is for. It's not about what was victory. I mean, Biden said himself, like, would even be victory? Like, Afghanistan is not like where we're going to build this Afghanistan, a country out of thin air. Like our contractors, Blackwater was going to build a country. Taco Bell was going to build a country. Like,
also, by the way, they want them to be doing all those infrastructure projects here. So, in Afghanistan, what they would do, and what they did in Iraq too, is they would like not fix a bridge, but they would pay like 5 different American consulting companies to all get paid to come up with ideas for how to fix the bridge, but still no one would fix the bridge. So they want to bring that kind of infrastructure back to America. That's what this infrastructure bill is all about, is bringing the kind of infrastructure and nation building that we did in Iraq and Afghanistan right back here to the US of A, and get those consultants paid to not fix the bridges here in America.
Right. Really terrible. Should we watch the video of Biden bootstrapping Afghanistan?
Sure.
All right.
He is so funny. He's like, they were weak. They didn't do it. They couldn't get it done.
Yeah,
Pathetic.
I know. I hate this shit. Hold on a second.
It's the funniest thing in the world too, because
people don't understand.
It's the funniest thing too, because we put the puppet government in charge, and so we're like, this puppet government is pathetic. I'm like, but that's you too, dude.
Yeah, that's our point.
Afghanistan political leaders gave up
Man.
Fled the country.
Okay, here he is.
Afghanistan political leaders gave up and fled the country.
So good.
With our help.
Yes.
The Afghan military collapsed.
Because we were.
Sometime without trying to fight.
The military didn't even try. They died of a broken heart. They couldn't even fight.
Military involvement in Afghanistan now was the right decision. American troops cannot and should not be fighting in a war and dying in a war that Afghan forces are not willing to fight for themselves.
Well, see, that's the fucking ridiculous thing.
I know.
Because, like, you're just putting it, like, there was no Afghan army. You know what I mean? Like, they kept throwing around this number of there being 300,000 people, and there are reports of, like, that some of the people, like, that would say, like, I recruited, like, 20 people, they would just get all the money sent to them. So, like, this idea that there were 300,000, it's also just hilarious that, like, that's what our intelligence community, like, believes, is they're just like, well, we have it in our spreadsheets that the army is 300,000 people. There was no 300,000 person Afghan army. What a fucking joke.
Yeah. Oh, let's see.
We spent over $1
They're
trillion.
talking about it like it's a romantic relationship also. You know what I mean? Like, it's, we're not going to put in the heavy lifting if our partner isn't. If it doesn't work, if it's not worth it to that people of Afghanistan.
She's just not that into us, man.
She's just not that into us, and I can't carry the whole thing. But it would be like if you forced a relationship onto someone in the first place, and then you pretended that they weren't being enthusiastic enough about it. Like, yeah, I mean, the metaphors are not pretty, but
and should not
similar.
Be fighting in a war and dying in a war that Afghan forces are not willing to fight for themselves.
Putting it all on the Afghans, so funny.
We spent over $1 trillion.
Who asked us to?
Equipped an Afghan
Who asked
military
us to?
force with some 300,000 strong, incredibly well equipped.
The 300,000 strong.
In the militaries of many of our NATO allies. We gave them every tool they could need.
Where is the picture of even 1,000 people in the Afghan army? Where, if they have 300,000 of them, where is the picture of one camp where there's even 100 of them? You know what I mean? I'm like, I swear to God, they're saying there was a 300,000 person army. It might have been a 300 person army.
Yeah, right. They just messed up.
Salaries.
I hate this shit. He's making it seem like they're a bunch of freeloaders. When we invaded that country, they weren't like, please come help us.
That's the other thing. That's another thing we're doing now is we're being like, the Taliban, like, good luck. You've inherited a country that's broke. Right. And it's like, yeah, well, how did it get broke? Where did all the natural resources go to? Right, yeah. Where did they all disappear to?
We paid their salaries, provided for the maintenance of their Air Force.
We paid them salaries.
Something that Taliban doesn't have. Taliban does not have an Air Force.
They do now. Yeah. They do now because you left one there.
We gave them every chance to determine their own future.
We could not provide them was the will to fight for that future.
Oh my God.
There's some very brave and capable Afghan special forces units and soldiers. But if Afghanistan is unable to mount any real resistance to the Taliban now, there is no chance that 1 year, one more year, 5 more years, or 20 more years.
This is where he's like kind of right, but he's victim blaming.
I mean, that's the thing. That's why I'm like, this speech is fucked up because it is so fucked up to just blame the Afghans who are, that is victim blaming. Like, we came in and like destroyed their country.
All right, and so what deal did they then cut with the Taliban to protect the army? Like, if we're surrendering, where's the surrender plan? Like, like there's a missing piece here. Like, if he were actually like serious about any of this, then the next step isn't just the immediately pull out. You actually would talk to the victor. You would talk to the Taliban about some sort of settlement agreement.
While U.S. troops remained in Afghanistan, bearing the brunt of the fighting for them.
He really feels so sorry for himself. He's such a, I mean, it's not that.
Strategic competitors, China and
Russia. Here we go. China and Russia.
Would love nothing more
than the United States
to continue to funnel billions of dollars in resources and attention.
I think they're also happy with how things turned out this way as well. To be honest with you, I think they're also happy with this outcome.
Who, Russia and China, you mean?
Yeah, well, China, especially Russia.
And again, when I spoke by phone to Ghani in July, we had
by phone as opposed to by like FaceTime.
We talked about how Afghanistan should prepare to fight their civil wars after the U.S. military.
And then Ghani flew from the country with $200 million in cash.
Oh, sorry, I do have a correction. We are now negotiating with the Taliban.
We are now
negotiating with the Taliban.
About the need for Afghan leaders to unite politically. They fail to do any of that.
They failed.
He talks about the people of Afghanistan like he talks about millennials. No empathy. I have no empathy. Give me a break.
I have no sympathy.
Seek a political settlement.
Give me a break.
With the Taliban. This advice was flatly refused.
What's that? That's a weird code.
Mr. Ghani,
I gotta poop.
The Afghan forces would fight.
I'm about to poop him.
Obviously, he was wrong.
Whoa, wait a second. You just praised Ghani. You said you had a great chat with him on the phone, and then you're saying he's a liar?
Yeah, well, Ghani, he's like, I talked to Ghani and I told Ghani about, how we would have to make sure to fight for yourselves. I'm like, dude, Ghani fled the country like 5 days before you gave this speech. He's nowhere to be found. He took a briefcase full of money and got the fuck out of there. That's why all this happened in the first place.
Yeah, it's so ridiculous. Well, there are a bunch of other stories, but what do you guys want to talk about? We don't have time to get all of them, but we got, let's see, we got the Rachel, Larry David, Mad Dad, and the TikTok star. Leslie and Jack, what's your pref?
I leave it up to Leslie, who's my producer. So, Leslie,
where do you want to go?
Well, first, before we get into it, we have to get our plugs in. Hello, everyone. Welcome to
I'm going to go off the screen for a second.
Oh, no, I didn't want to leave.
Oh, no. I just need to grab something.
Okay. Well, hello, everyone. Welcome to Struggle Session. I am Leslie III.
I'm Jack Allison.
And today we are joining the Katie Halper Show. But if you want to hear more of us, you can check us out at patreon.com/struggle session or sesh.plus. We have a new website up at sesh.show, and we got t-shirts out at strugglesession.shop. Some really cool new highfalutin t-shirts. Hope you check them out.
That's right, everybody. And I also host a morning show on Twitch, and it's entitled Jack AM. And you can simply go to twitch.tv/Jack AM and watch it. I talk about all this news stuff every day, but usually far lazier than the way we're talking about it on this show, because it's first thing in the morning.
Yeah, you need that slower pace. You don't want this.
You got to have your coffee. You know what I mean? You got to have your coffee.
Got to have your morning coffee. Don't even talk to me.
If I haven't had my coffee.
No, don't.
Are you kidding me?
Don't even think about it.
Don't even talk to me.
Okay.
If I haven't had my coffee.
Check out that drip, strugglesession.shop. We got the new t-shirt up. Jack, I was inspired by Final Fantasy VII. We got the Nova.
Oh, I love that. I love that.
I swear to God, we got the coolest t-shirts in all the podcasts.
We really do. We really do have good stuff.
And here's the thing, Jack. We don't even break even on the designs because I hired some really great artists. Not about that. It's about
not about that. It's about
trying to be the Kanye of podcasts. Okay, I'm trying to be Kanye.
I mean, they are very nice.
Wait, why is that a Kanye thing? Nice. Explain.
Just because
he makes great
it's
stuff.
About the fashion. It's about the art. It's just about the art itself. It's not about the money. It's about the art.
I don't want to talk that much to chat, but I do want to respond. There was a couple people saying that, the situation in Afghanistan is not funny. And I guess I just want to say that, to me, it is very, very funny that it took the United States 2 decades to lose completely a war to the Taliban in Afghanistan. It actually is insanely funny that we completely lost and capitulated and were soundly and fully defeated by the Taliban in Afghanistan. Sorry, it is funny. I have to say that it is.
Yeah, if you don't laugh, you'll cry. I mean, this is the Katie Halper Show. You went to a stand-up comedian's YouTube channel to hear about.
I don't like to remind people of that because then I don't really do stand-up anymore, and also I like I prefer to be a funny non-stand-up than a not as funny stand-up. You know what I mean? Yeah. But it's okay. But yeah, I'm irreverent. I'll say that.
Yeah, you're irreverent. Like, people should know when they're coming in for the Katie Halper Show, because that's the beauty of your show, because you talk about all these serious things, but you keep it light and you build up this friendly, fun show and community. and all you've introduced me to so many great people. Yeah, just really
bringing a lot of great voices. Yeah, and, a lot of interesting ideas and stuff like that. I guess the only thing that could have been funnier about Afghanistan is if they waited 2 weeks to take Kabul on the anniversary of 9/11. Which is what I was originally thinking was going to happen, was that they were going to take Kabul on 9/11. But actually, the problem was America and the Afghan military that we trained there were far too pathetic for that to happen. I feel like the Taliban didn't even expect to take it in 4 days, but they walked into Kabul and they're like, literally no one is resisting. There's nobody resisting. We can just walk in. Fuck it, I guess. We'll just walk in. Jesus.
Well, guys, it's not like we don't feel bad about people dying.
Yeah. It's not like I don't feel bad. I do feel bad about people dying.
If that needs to be explained, why are you on the show? If you think we're also, come on.
Oh, I'm so tempted. Don't let me read a comment. Someone wrote a terrible comment that I'm not going to read because it's just too awful. It's too stupid on its face. I'm being criticized for something. I'm not even going to read it. But basically, someone just said, you're too humorous to be funny, or you're too funny to be humorous.
What the?
I know. What the? So, also, if I can just pitch, guys, it's free. I mean, I definitely love their merch. I'm going to have to buy a shirt. But, what's free is just subscribing to the Katie Halper Show, just liking it. Literally right now, show your love. Do you like the show?
Hit that little bell.
Hit that little button. And subscribe with the bell.
Is it a bell or something like that?
The bell is, yes, the like is a bell.
Yeah.
And then you can excuse me. The subscribing is a bell. And then liking is you just do the thumbs up. I think. I don't even know, but someone knows this. Like is the thumbs up. Subscribe is the bell. You can share. While we're streaming, you can share. Shout out to Nick, Palm, Verushka, Jack, and Leslie, obviously. Also, Phantom was Fanta, Independent Left, and all the regs who are here, and all the newbies who are here. But also become Patreon supporters, and you can do that. If you want bonus stuff, you do patreon.com/the Katie Halper Show. Again, it's patreon.com/the Katie Halper Show. And if you can't, afford $5 a month, I get it. You can just throw down $1 a month and just feel good about making the show happen.
And you get on the Discord, right?
Yes, you get access to Discord. Oh, guys, and I want to thank right now. We have some people. We got Chris M. Thank you, Chris M. Chris M, as in the man. That's what you are. See, when you join in real time, you get a little rap poem. So you got Chris M. That's who you. Chris M, because you're the man, and then Kathleen. Kathleen decided to lean in. You see, guys, most shows don't do this. This real time.
Yeah.
Slam poetry. Yeah. People have been dying. I can't read that. Can you put that? People have been dying in Afghanistan forever and no one gave a damn. Not in the 70s, 80s, 90s, 2000s, 10s, or even this past year. Stop pretending to care now. Wait, is that directed at me?
No. Maybe in general. At general.
Oh, okay. That's fine. If you're going to shame, please feel free to shame most people. Yeah. Then I co-sign that. Yeah. What else? But there's definitely what about the women? Guess who the civilians were, guys? We talked about this with Michael Preisner. Guess who killed a lot of civilians, including women? U.S. airstrikes, the puppet government. Guess what else kills people? You may not know this, but you care about women and children?
Yeah.
War.
Well, actually, Katie, the term that they've been using on cable news is actually not women and children anymore. That's kind of an antiquated term. It's women and girls.
Women and girls.
Boys, boys, we could give a shit about.
Well, they'll shoot them because the CIA rounded them up and shot them.
I mean, that's the thing is they do only talk about women and girls because all the boys and men were being drafted into the fucking Afghan military forces by us to form a fake army.
Actually, is if we bomb a boy, he's considered enemy combatant, but a girl isn't.
Yes,
is the main thing.
Yeah, a lot of fucked up shit happens to women and girls when armies are invading villages. You know what I mean? All the time. I'm sure that the women and girls were having a great time when the military was busting their fucking doors down in the middle of the night and knocking their father in the face and all this shit. You know what I mean? if you're really concerned about women and girls, which, by the way, I don't really believe that any of these people are, and that's also not the reason why we went to Afghanistan in the first place. Like the idea now, they're like pushing this idea that like they're using like Me Too language about Afghanistan, which has been really fucking weird and disgusting. Nancy Pelosi released a statement basically being like, I'm disappointed in the Taliban. Like, this is, by the way, this is
they
all
really try to press Nancy, so that's going to work.
And also, this is the only thing that American Democrats can do is release a press release saying like, I disapprove of this. You know what I mean? Like the Taliban took over Afghanistan, and Nancy Pelosi released a press release saying they need to have women at the table. I'm like, if you really want to see how completely powerless the Speaker of the House is, she released a statement like as if it were like Trump said a cuss word or something like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I like the idea that they're gonna like take that into account.
Did you see what Nancy Pelosi just said? Like, you know, we need women at the table. I'm just like, you know, and by the way, the stuff I've been seeing about like what, you know, they're like women, you know, and girls had such a good time in Afghanistan since we took over the country. They were learning to code Ethereum apps. Right. There was even a place that was teaching them how to code Ethereum apps, and now that all might be taken away. I'm like, I don't know. It might be bad, you know, but I also think there's a lot of like misinformation going on around there. Like I said, on MSNBC, you'll see an analyst just be like, I'm hearing from my people that women are being beaten on the ground. And I'm like, that sounds like a news story, and you should maybe like send that to the news section rather than just saying like, here's what I'm hearing as an analyst. You know what I mean? Meanwhile, I did see photos of like girls going to school. You know, for all the talk about, you know, girls aren't going to go to school under the Taliban, the first day under Taliban rule, there's photos of the girls going to school. You know what I mean? I don't know. Like, again, I'm not going to hand it to the Taliban. I think a religious theocracy is a quite bad idea, to be honest with you.
We're not
but I don't.
That,
but you know,
but
in
it's
some
not
ways,
like there was stability, tolerance, democracy, any
created
of that
by
shit.
war. Yeah, it was not like war is going to create any of that. And frankly, I also question the utility of why people need to say that. You know what I mean? Like, we can all agree, of course, that a religious theocracy is bad, and that, you know, having a country run by any, you know, religion, a religious faction of any religion is a bad thing. But why people are all of a sudden needing to be like, but the Taliban, of course, is bad. I'm like, so then finish that sentence. So then it's like, so then we have to stop them? Is that what you're saying? You know what I mean? Like, if you're saying the Taliban is bad and we all have to agree the Taliban is bad, then what's the next part of that thought? Are you saying we should get back on the ground and get rid of them? Or, you know, are we just we all just have to agree they're bad, you know?
Right. Well, it reminds me a bit of, not to open a can of worms, reminds me a bit of the Syria stuff.
Yeah.
It's like you have to say how bad Assad is in order to say anything like that. Maybe we shouldn't be, you know, funding moderate rebels. Right. You know, you have to say that. And then people don't want to because they realize like they're dedicating airtime and print or tweets to that, and they don't want to. And then they're presented as these like, you know, Assadists. Again,
you don't just, what is the function of saying this person is a dictator? What is the, like, what are you trying to accomplish by going out there and saying that? And it's like, maybe I even do agree, but we also understand that what we're doing at all times is manufacturing consent and creating narratives and everything like that. And so what is the actual utility of us having to blanket the airwaves with the Taliban is bad, you know?
Right. Exactly. Yep, I totally agree. And we're going to be called Talibanists.
Of course.
And everything, Taliban.
What else? You know, I only think the only thing, I'm not pro Taliban at all. I think they're quite bad, actually. The only thing I think is good is that they'll probably work with China to get some roads built there. Yeah, that is truly like what I think will probably work out well for them.
Did you also see this clip where they were like asked about free speech, and they were like, "You should ask Facebook about this"? Did you see this?
Oh yeah, I did see that. That's a really great clip.
I also thought it was funny that the Taliban takes questions. Joe Biden wasn't taking questions. The Taliban takes questions.
Yeah, a lot of people have been noticing that the Taliban aren't as scary as they seem, and they mostly seem like TikTok teens, more or less. Like a lot of them are like just really young guys who are smiling for the cameras and mugging with the CNN anchors and stuff. Like, these are the people we spent 20 years and trillions of dollars trying to eradicate these children.
Meanwhile, I saw a clip from like 2004 of American soldiers saying they found someone with stolen wood and then driving over his car with a tank and flattening his car because he had stolen wood. Not only also destroying the wood, but then afterwards the guy is like, I'm a taxi driver. That's like my entire livelihood. So, you know, if whether or not the Taliban is actually going to be more, you know, liberal or fucking whatever, they at least know that you can't go on television and look like psychos. You know what I mean? They've at least learned that, and we did not have that.
Yeah. Whoa. That's it's pretty, I don't know. It's all fucked, and all the people who are talking about it. Again, just be consistent. Like if you, I will take your messages about women and girls seriously when I see that you ever tweeted about airstrikes.
I mean, you know, again, we were airstriking, you know, weddings. We airstrike many weddings and stuff like that, and now we're very, very concerned. I don't know.
Well, Jack, you just thinking of mentioning that. Reminds me of something that people were celebrating a couple of weeks ago, Obama's birthday party.
Oh yeah.
I mean, basically the same week as the pullout from Afghanistan.
Yeah.
Joe Biden on vacation.
Yeah.
And then Barack Obama just a week before having his big birthday bash in Martha's Vineyard, which has resulted in an outbreak, at least among the staff. At some of the hotels that some of his guests were staying at.
They were, you know, there was an outbreak in Martha's Vineyard that's the largest they've had. Not like a huge outbreak, but definitely a spike post, you know, hundreds of people coming to Martha's Vineyard to hang out with Obama wearing a Hawaiian shirt.
Wow. That's I thought the Republicans were the only ones bad on that.
Yeah, I mean, I mean, I think part of the Obama having a birthday bash is part of the opener up of it all, and Democrats just being like, you know, it's time to open back up, which again, we're now, you know, a little over 6 months into it, and Biden's COVID plan like was Trump's COVID plan, right? Like, you know, we have now witnessed, and nobody really wants to like acknowledge or talk about this, but like we've now witnessed 2 COVID spikes. And they've both been presided over pretty similarly, with the president wanting to get the country open as quickly as possible. You know, that's kind of how it's been, you know, when it was Trump, and that's how it's been when it was Biden. Trump was saying, let's get the fucking vaccines made really quickly, and Biden was like, let's get them out really quickly, and now we've got another wave, and Biden wants to reopen the country. Like, I don't see a gigantic difference in the COVID policy.
Yeah, I don't either, except the discourse, which makes some difference. I think it does make some difference. But you also have like where, you know, because Trump famously admitted that he downplayed it, which I still can't get over, that Bob Woodward didn't think that would be relevant to talk about.
Newsworthy to release at the moment. Yeah.
At the fucking moment. Like there are people who I'm sure it would have made a difference for if they heard that. If they heard that this guy that they looked up to, I mean, depending on how much they looked up to him, maybe they really looked up to him and then they trust that his playing it downplaying it was for the right reason. But like, what do you mean? What Trump said? He literally is on tape telling Bob Woodward on the record that he downplayed it because he didn't want to cause a panic.
Right.
So that's like definitionally.
I mean, I think this might also be someone saying what, you know, how are their policies? You're saying their policies aren't different, and Trump said it would be over by summer. Yeah. Then Biden got in office and he said it would be over by summer too.
Right.
Biden did the same thing. Trump was like, it'll be over by summer. And then Biden went on TV and gave a big speech about how we're all going to be on 4th of July partying because it's going to be over by summer.
Do what you want. That's what he said. You're going to be able to do what you want by the 4th of July.
It's another example of how similar it's been.
Well, some people said, some people asked if we had seen that. Maybe we could go out. Leslie, what do you want to go out on? I thought we could go out on something even more upbeat than this. We have the LD-AD story.
Oh, that's fun. Yeah.
Yeah, let's do that.
One?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, guys. So we got a news story because we want to make sure you're informed. Okay, here we go.
Oh, yeah.
Where is this? Okay. So this is from Page 6, New York Post. And apparently, here we go. Ready?
Oh, yeah.
Larry David screamed at Alan Dershowitz at grocery store over Trump ties.
Yeah. The only thing that's sad about this is you wish it was Epstein. You wish it was Epstein.
that he was. You mean screaming?
That
I know.
He was screaming
There's so
about?
many things. I know. I totally. I was.
It's
like,
unfortunate. It's unfortunate that Larry was just being like, "You helped him, and they did a coup. They did a coup on 1/6. They did a 1/6 coup."
So disappointing. I know. It really is. I mean, this does read like an episode of Curb Your Enthusiasm, but I wish it had been a better thing. So let's say, it seems that Alan Dershowitz's ties to the Trump administration have made him persona non grata among the Martha Vineyard's elite, including Larry David. A Page 6 spy spotted the Harvard law professor who once, like David, a fully paid member of the Democratic Cool Kids, bumping into the David, a fully paid member of the Democratic Cool Kids, bumping into the comic on the porch of the island's picturesque convenience store and community hub, Chillmark General Store, and found their exchange so bizarre that they wrote it down to remember it. Page 6 strongly recommends that readers enjoy the following while playing the Curb Your Enthusiasm theme in their heads.
All right, Page 6. You don't have to be so cute about it. You don't have to be so cute.
Dershowitz says, "We can still talk, Larry." David, No, we really can't. We really can't. I saw you. I'm not that good at the accent because it's not quite as like Bernie-ish.
Yeah.
It's like,
no,
we really can't. I saw you with your arm around former It's not that broke.
A little raspy too.
Yeah, I can't do it. I'm
just
not
Pompeo.
good at it. Yeah, around Pompeo. It's disgusting. Dershowitz, he's my former student at Harvard Law. I greet all of my former students that way. I can't greet my former students. David, it's disgusting. Your whole enclave. It's such a funny Larry word.
Pause.
Okay, pause.
Enclave.
Yeah.
What image does that conjure up with Alan Dershowitz? It does not conjure up Harvard Law to me. It conjures up Jeffrey Epstein, Bohemian Grove.
All of you Epstein guys.
Island.
Yeah, seriously.
And it sounds like Larry David has gotten, I don't know, at least an invite.
He's like, I know Jerry goes to that stuff.
Yeah.
I know Jerry goes to that stuff. I don't like it.
He knows someone with an invite.
So
I know Jerry likes some.
Is this code, do you think?
Your whole
I don't know.
enclave.
Their enclave.
I know that is
such
funny.
a specific word.
That's a strange little term.
That is really true.
I have never used the word enclave to describe anything
like
that was not nefarious.
Yeah. Well, I mean, to be fair, Trump and Pompeo are nefarious, but it's not the same level as Island of Rapists nefarious or Plain, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Enclave.
So do you think he's using coded language?
Maybe people on Martha's Vineyard know about the enclave.
Yes.
Maybe people speak in whispered tones about the enclave.
Maybe it is the capital THE, capital E, enclave.
Right.
And this is just a mistype in the paraphrase.
Oh, yeah, you're right.
I know about the enclave. You have an app that you get on, just like
Oh, it's so terrible. Added the stunned voice. Larry walks away. Alan takes off his shirt to reveal another T-shirt underneath that says, "It's the Constitution, stupid." We're told Dersh drove off in an old, dirty Volvo. Dershowitz has an old, dirty Volvo? Doesn't that surprise you?
It doesn't surprise me for Martha's Vineyard because I think this is where they like keep their old. They're like, like it's like I'm reliving my like childhood or whatever. It's like probably like a very well maintained old beaten up Volvo. Right. You know what I mean?
But that
he's an old rich guy. I mean, they just like having weird quirks where they like
with
pretend
cars.
to be human.
Pretend to be a real person. Yeah. Reached for comment, Dershowitz confirmed the exchange and told us that he and the Curb creator had been friends for many years until the lawyer began working with the Trump camp. He even claimed that he helped get one of David's daughters into college.
Well, that's funny.
Well, and had once represented him pro bono in a legal dispute he had on the Massachusetts island where they both spend their summers. He told us that he greeted.
I mean, so Larry David is like not complicit.
He's a billionaire, Leslie. You know, Larry David's a
enclave
billionaire, so he's a billionaire.
He's just in a different enclave, I guess.
Yeah,
there's competing enclaves.
Yeah.
He told us that he'd greeted David at the store, but that the comic had walked away from him, which is when he said, "We can still talk, Larry," and our spy picked up the dialogue. Dershowitz told us that while it might sound on paper like an awkward scene from Curb, it wasn't funny at all.
Wow.
The professor claimed that David screamed and yelled at him, and that his face turned bright red. I was worried that he was going to have a stroke.
You can tell Larry David did not provide comment for this article because they are like leaning so hard on what Dershowitz said.
Yep.
Dershowitz picked up the phone.
He pointed out that on the occasions he has been snapped being affectionate towards Pompeo. Oh, this is such a great. Of course, we were just expecting this.
He wrote half this article.
I know.
Basically, Dershowitz wrote half of this article.
Yeah, this is an op-ed by Alan Dershowitz.
Yeah.
He pointed out that on the occasions he has been snapped being affectionate towards Pompeo, who studied at Harvard Law in the 90s, it's not because he's a blind supporter of the Trump administration, but because he admires the former Secretary of State's work on peace in the Middle East. He wrote that sentence, by the way.
Yeah, really?
He legit wrote that sentence. There's no way the Post was like, now, far be it from him to be a blind supporter of the Trump administration, but he admires the former Secretary of State's work on peace in the Middle East. In fact, he says he worked with Pompeo on his department's policy regarding Israel and the Palestinians, and has been invited to the White House by both the Trump administration and the Israeli government to celebrate it. And he said he's disappointed that David can't understand why he'd work with any administration on peace for Israel, regardless of who was occupying. Oh, interesting choice of verbs. Occupying the Oval Office. Mm-hmm. While he was writing bad jokes, I was helping to bring about peace in the Middle East, Dershowitz told us.
Wow.
What has he done? Larry is a knee-jerk radical. He takes his politics from Hollywood. He doesn't read a lot. He doesn't think a lot. It's typical of what happens now on the Vineyard. People won't talk to each other. They don't agree with their if they don't
very
agree
sad.
With their
very lots of cancel culture going on in Martha's Vineyard.
What kind of the Vineyard?
They've been reporting on this for a while, actually. Kay, you joke.
Yeah, Alan Dershowitz has been pushed out in the Vineyard.
Of the Enclave, of the Vineyard Enclave.
Oh, yeah.
The New York Times did an article about this, about how they felt sorry for him because he had been isolated due to his ties to Trump. Was it Jeffrey Epstein?
I think it was the Epstein around that time.
It was Epstein, actually, and so people weren't talking to him. And so the New York Times did this big weepy article about how he no longer has friends in Martha's Vineyard and feels very isolated. One guy. They did an article about one guy. How many?
Well, one guy who's loved and lost a lot.
How many homeless people are there in New York?
Yeah.
They did a story about one rich guy.
Yeah.
How many homeless people do the writers at the New York Times walk by every single day?
Yeah. Not interested.
But that's what they write about.
Not interested. Okay, here's what you're referring to. Dershowitz said David isn't the only friend he's lost, particularly after he defended President Donald Trump over his first impeachment, when Trump was accused of trying to arrange a quid pro quo with the Ukrainian government.
Oh, yeah.
So this is
so
best,
huge.
ready?
That was such a huge event. We all remember that huge time in history.
Right. That's the price of principle, he said. He later said his principles require that he defend the Constitution and that he felt the first impeachment of Trump was unconstitutional. He told us why he removed his second T-shirt after the run-in to reveal the one that read is the Constitution.
Hold on a second. When he was done talking to Larry David, pulled off his first T-shirt and had on his second T-shirt, which said "It's the Constitution, stupid."
Yeah, and
that's one way to win a debate. That's one way to win a debate to pull off your shirt and reveal the undershirt.
Yeah, which he said his wife bought him because so many people misunderstood his decision to defend Trump. He said he was wearing 2 T-shirts at the time of the incident, because he was on his way to meet a friend when he ran into David, and he had been planning to give the outer T-shirt to his pal as a gag gift.
Okay,
so
I'm sorry.
Wearing it?
I'm sorry.
The gag gift.
Alan Dershowitz wrote this artitle. There's why in the world would there be a parenthetical about why he's going to go give it to his friend as a gag gift?
Right. Well, it also doesn't make sense because they're saying that he was going to give the gag gift and it was the outer T-shirt. But the T-shirt that says it's the Constitution, stupid, is the inner T-shirt.
Wow.
What did the outer T-shirt say again?
I don't know, but
we
apparently
don't know about it yet.
T-shirt. I don't know if we're ever going
to find out.
He was wearing it.
His original plan was to go to his friend's house and take off his shirt and be like, "This is a gift for you, on my nasty, sweaty Alan Dershowitz elderly old man body. This is actually your shirt that you get to wear. How much fun!"
You know, he was wearing the jacket too, right? He was wearing those 2 T-shirts and the jacket, and maybe like a tank top, like underneath. He's an old man. Old men like the layer up.
I bet you. I think Dershowitz always has that shirt on under another shirt, and for moments like this at the Vineyard. And this is him trying to cover to page 6. He's like, "Well, the only reason is because I was going as a gag gift to my friend's house." I believe that he has this shirt on all the time.
All the time.
I believe he does.
he'd been planning to give the outer T-shirt to his pal as a gag gift. So was the outer T-shirt or the inner T-shirt the Constitution one?
The inner one was.
The inner one was the Constitution.
We don't know what the gag one is.
We don't know what and that's a major oversight by Page 6.
Yes, that's
in my opinion.
burying the lead. I'm a liberal Democrat, and I voted for Biden just as enthusiastically as Larry did.
That's, hey, good for him.
That may be actually true.
I believe that is true. I believe that 100% that Dershowitz voted for Biden
with glee. David is guilty of contemporary McCarthyism, Dershowitz said. McCarthy would have been proud of him. He said that in the 50s, political witch hunter Joseph McCarthy went after lawyers who represented people he disagreed with. Dershowitz told us he wants to extend a hand of friendship to the Seinfeld co-creator if Larry wants to talk about any of this. He said, I wouldn't get into a screaming match with him. If he wants to scream, he'll have to scream alone.
And then, of course,
for David didn't immediately return our request.
Larry David did not want to participate in this article in any way.
Which is so
everything,
ridiculous.
The entire thing is written by Dershowitz, who probably was like, okay, I'll do a phoner with you. And then I'm happy to send over a bunch of materials as well. I'll email a bunch of quotes as well.
Oh God!
Ridiculous.
I was able to find the shirt that he was wearing.
Oh no! Let's see it.
Oh,
that's
the gag shirt.
There it is. You too can have one.
I'm gonna make a T-shirt.
Have that Dersh drip.
I'm gonna make a T-shirt. I'm gonna make a T-shirt of Dershowitz wearing a T-shirt that says, "It's the Constitution, stupid."
I'm gonna make a double T-shirt that's 2 T-shirts sewn together at the neck, so you can pull it up and show that there's another one under that says "It's the Constitution, stupid."
But what would the outer one say?
The outer one, I think it would probably be a big dog shirt for one of the Star Wars movies. You know, what I mean? Be like Attack of the Bones or something like that.
Oh, that's good. What about something like who likes blah 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 and has who likes blowjobs and has 2 thumbs? This guy.
Yeah. I mean, it could also be one of those Facebook shirts that's like, "Don't mess with a grandpa who's a Harvard law professor and plays golf every weekend," or something like that. You know.
With Jeffrey Epstein's ghost.
Don't mess with a Harvard law professor who, spent some time on the Lolita Express and, blah, blah, blah. That kind of thing.
That's how he should defend spending time there. It's the Constitution, stupid.
How many shirts do you think he has another shirt for if people confront him about Epstein? Do you think he pulls out? Do you think he's got the Constitution one and then he's got the Epstein one?
What would the Epstein one say?
Something about age of consent laws.
Yeah,
yes,
right.
Yes, yeah.
Within the whatever Lowe's St. James is.
Right,
yeah.
There's no age of consent laws
St.
at
James,
sea.
Yeah. What happens in St. James stays in St. James.
Yeah. Maritime.
Here's the thing I'm just thinking about with Dershowitz. How did he get where he is? Because he does not seem like a smart man. I don't know.
That's precisely why.
I'm going to push back, though. This is not going to be popular. I think he's very smart. I know I'm going to get canceled. I think he's a disgusting human being.
Uh-oh.
I don't believe in the death penalty. He's probably he could be a contender, though, if I had to reconsider. But I think he's smart. I think he's very smart. I've found myself following what he has to say because he's very good at pretending that he's being considering multiple points of view.
Yeah.
He concedes points that don't agree with him, and then he comes back to his original point.
I think that what I see about Alan Dershowitz is a man who truly has tapped into the vile subcurrent of American ideology. I think he really does. He does have a tap on representing OJ. He just is he's been there and he knows exactly how vile this country is and how to profit from it.
Well,
I disagree. I think I'm a lot smarter than Alan Dershowitz.
Well, Leslie, you're very smart. So
then why don't you try to beat him in a trial then, Leslie?
I think I will. Why
don't you try to
You should be like, Your
Alan
Honor,
Dershowitz?
your last piece of evidence will be like, Your Honor, you lift up a T-shirt. That would be good. But no, he's and remember he was rooting for George Zimmerman. I don't even think he wasn't representing him. He was just saying he thought he was.
I mean, that's the thing is he's a defense attorney, so it's and I don't know. He's an interesting guy. He's such a libertarian. He said
he'd leave the Democratic Party if Ellison was voted the DNC chair. And then, which was, another reason I wanted Allison to win. But then when Ellison was given this bullshit position as, deputy DNC chair, which was just to be like symbolic.
Yeah.
He didn't leave. And it's like, if he's an odious enough person to make you leave the party if he's DNC chair, isn't he an odious enough person to make you leave the party if he's DNC deputy chair? Like, if the guys are raging anti-Semite, which he's not, but you're claiming that, you probably don't want to have anything to do with that party, regardless of whether he's DNC chair or DNC deputy chair. Anyway, big gotcha.
Yeah, I don't know. Jack, thoughts on people who laugh at their own jokes?
Jack isn't laughing at his own jokes.
Probably
He's
talented hosts. Talented hosts who are on Twitch every day.
Fuck hundreds
of viewers.
You gotta fill the air with some bullshit.
So. Also, I don't
a lot of times laughing that gets other people to laugh too.
It does.
So my thoughts on it are I don't care about, my thoughts on it are, what kind of busybody is someone who would even give a shit enough to pay money to put a comment like that? And what kind of busybody cares so much about and things like that?
Yeah,
People are so uptight. There are so many little chat Karens out there. There are so many little chat Karens out there. And anyway,
Jack,
have a good time.
Jack, I actually want to share this. I'm gonna say it live because I was just listening to Radio War Nerd. Radio War Nerd, extremely popular podcast.
Yeah,
people love that thing.
Oh,
it's great, full of great information, wonderful information. Great guys. I follow them. I support them financially. Have for years. They're great. Everybody should check out Radio War Nerd. But they don't edit any of that stuff out, and their podcast is I spend hours, Jack, trying to get our NPR tight almost on stuff.
Oh, you don't like the ums and ahs in there?
I spend hours editing every episode.
Wow.
But then I listen to Radio War Nerd or lots of other podcasts that are extremely popular. I'm talking like some of the hosts are millionaire popular.
Yeah.
They don't bother any of that stuff.
Here's the thing.
It's just the little trolls who get mad at
some people get annoyed about it and it bothers them, but most people who have conversations with people in real life know that this is the kind of verbal chaff that people use when they are speaking in real time. So, if you're someone who, has conversations with people in the real world, you probably aren't as bothered by the ums and uhs and the laughter and stuff like that.
Yeah, it's kind of a weird thing, especially with podcasts, because it is supposed to be conversational. You're hearing people talk with friends. It's like, it's not an NPR show. You can mix it up. You can mix it up.
That's right. I'm just mucking about and laughing at my own jokes.
No, I think
it's all part of the fun.
I think that like Jack, not only does he, I'm glad he went all the way. You see, I like that you brought in all the criticisms people have, because what I'm going to say is that I say a lot, by the way, and I'll edit that out. But maybe, Leslie, we're kind of being ableist, because shouldn't we be normalizing the
Normalizing the by cutting it out? I try to avoid it.
We should be. If we leave it in, we're normalizing in a good way, not in a bad way. It's
funny.
Right. Normalizing is almost always pejorative. So what would the other? Aren't we creating a safe space for the if we leave it in?
Safe space for the I don't know. Sometimes the ums are what separate the
Here's the problem,
wheat from the chaff.
It also
the high level podcaster from kind of it is
use the word chaff in different ways. That's also interesting.
We should normalize ums and ahs. Like is another form of these are all things that people are using, because they're trying to think of the next word they're going to say. We're not reading off of teleprompters like many of the folks that you see on corporate cable news or Joe Biden and stuff like that. A lot of it is because we are speaking live contemporaneously, and we don't have a bunch of producers having text scrolling in front of our face. So, don't know what to tell you, everybody. That's life.
And I'm eating some edamame.
That's life. Sorry.
That's life.
I like that we get to have these little chats. You're just having fun, having a loose, just friends talking to each other.
Also, he doesn't laugh at himself. I think you, Jack, you laugh at the situation.
I laugh at things. I'll sometimes say something that I find funny, but I'm not really telling jokes at all.
Yeah, I never get that sense of. First of all, there are people who who I really like who laughs at himself is Eugene
Merman.
Merman, yeah.
Now
that he's telling jokes and he's laughing himself. But when you laugh, it's just like you're laughing at the absurdity. You're laughing at what you say. You're laughing at what I say. You're laughing at what Leslie
frankly, says. Jack is Joker-fied, as a lot of us are now. You're not laughing at a joke because the world is a joke. That's what
honestly, Leslie, you're telling me that America losing a war in Afghanistan is funny. You're telling me that that's funny. Well, yes, I am telling you that, and I'm tired of pretending it's not anymore.
I like that. Yeah.
I'm tired of pretending it's not.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah.
Anyway, I don't know what to tell you, everyone.
I thought this was great, guys.
This was great. It's great to be back. Good to chat with you again. This is a lot of fun. Yeah, I would love to.
Yeah. You've been streaming up a storm, but I think maybe now you recalibrated.
Well, I now don't do Thursdays and I don't do Sundays because we do the struggle session stream. Katie, when I was doing the show with you on Sundays, I was also streaming on Saturday, and I realized after a while that I'm doing 7 days a week of streaming, and even if it is only 2 hours of playing a video game, that's still doing too much fucking work.
Yeah, you're still on. You're still on.
I'm really trying to keep it to only 5 days a week. So I'm off on Thursdays and I'm off on Sundays now.
Oh, the 2 days that I stream.
Well, I can maybe come for a Thursday. It seems like you're ending at a pretty reasonable hour here, so I could come on a Thursday these days.
Yeah, but Saturday nights, Struggle Session is doing a live stream, and we have a live show with, speaking of big name podcasts, Jordan, Jesse, Go. We got Jesse.
No, Jordan.
We don't have Go. We got
Jordan. We got Jordan.
I thought we had Go, and then I said Jesse.
Wait, I'm sorry. I'm not being cutesy. Is this one person?
No, they have a 2-person podcast. It's Jordan, Jesse, Go. Yeah. But we have Jordan Morris is coming on the show.
Jesse.
Not Jesse.
I'm gonna get Jesse. Maybe I'll get Jesse.
Try to get Jesse. Good luck. We got Jesse, or we got Jordan coming on Saturday to talk about the Suicide Squad, and Leslie, I can tell you, Jordan's going to be here live in the studio, so he's going to be sitting right here next to me.
Twitch.tv/struggle session. Subscribe
That's right.
Now. Just head over to Twitch. Search for Struggle Session. We're right over there.
That's right, everybody.
Did everyone see me and Leslie? It's a Patreon only, actually, so you're going to have to come on over to the Patreon.
Oh yeah, me, you, and Jamie. had a little chat. Patreon only chat. Lots of fun.
And I agree with all this. Free Hal, free Resnick, free Assange, free Mamiya. Except I don't know who Resnick is.
And then it also says Freem Assange. So I don't know what a Freem is, just so you know. But it does say Freem Assange.
It's actually a callback to the free Assange.
Free Assange.
Free, Assange. Free like Assange.
Yeah, free like Assange.
Yeah. You guys are making me. You guys are. Oh wait, jokes aren't done with Norm Finkelstein or other actually serious people. Is that supposed to be an insult? Because actually, I do joke around with Norm.
That's part of the fun of the show. Actually,
in Louisiana term, we would say that Norm is a bit of a red ass. Is what we would say. Just a guy who's a little bit more ornery and funny than you expect. You see, like somebody who's just real professional and like a professor, author, and then you talk to them, they don't take no shit. He's a bit of a red ass. I like it.
He goes, I can't. He's a great accent. But his thing about his mom was amazing. Do you remember he told us? Were you on with me when he told that story about how his mom? It was like the day when she was freed. She was in the Holocaust. Oh, by the way, I don't know who Jessica Resnick is, so someone's gonna have to tell me. But she was in the Holocaust. She was in a concentration camp, and he's like, everyone. He's like, both my parents were in concentration camps. My mother in Majdanek, and my father in Auschwitz. Everyone says that their parents were in concentration camps. All right. Really? There were not that many people, but my parents were. It was kind of funny.
Jeez.
He's like, kind of humble bragging about the concentration camp. I know what he means. Everyone's like, he's like, survive at this, survive at that. He's one of the smartest people I've ever spoken to, though.
Yeah.
He knows so much.
Love to watch a Norm Finkelstein destroying Alan Dershowitz video, by the way.
Yes.
Those are some of the best ever.
Or Wolf Blitzer, too.
Norm Finkelstein. Yeah. I'm not really that into debate videos of destroying people, but Finkelstein is one where I'm like, okay, those are pretty good.
We got to watch that destruction.
Those are pretty good.
Did someone actually say, did I say me and Leslie, or did Jack say that? Who's correcting the Leslie and I, not me and Leslie?
Probably I said me and Leslie.
Let me tell you something.
I don't care, and I also say cactuses.
Oh, instead of cacti?
That's right.
It comes up. Here's the thing. I don't care about Leslie and I instead of Leslie and me, because that's colloquial.
That's colloquial.
What does sometimes drive me crazy is the I instead of me, which a lot of people do.
What do you mean?
So you're supposed to, okay, it's correct to say my mother and I are going to the
My mother
store.
and me? You don't like my mother and me?
Well, no. That I don't mind, because, okay, so what's correct, right, is saying my mother and I are going to the store. Mm-hmm. It's not me and my mother going to the store. I don't care when people say me and my mother are going to the store. I've said that. I said that, I'm sure. In fact, I just called out for saying that. But what the unfortunate, like, collateral damage of that is hypercorrection. So people, because they know that sometimes you're supposed to say I instead of me, what they do is they say I instead of me when it's incorrect. So they'll say, do you want to go to the store with my mother and I? Now that's incorrect, because you wouldn't say you want to go to the store with me.
Would say with me.
You want to go to the store with me. So
right,
then when you're making right. So that's the thing that and like, so people will be
with
like
my mother and I. Wow, that's interesting.
Or
that's true.
It's from my mother and I. No, it's from my mother and me.
Wow.
But that bothers me in a way the other doesn't, because the other one is colloquial, and the one that bothers me is hypercorrection.
It feels like a little bit like higher class to say that my mother is trying too hard. Yeah, it is. Same thing with when people say, like, it smells badly. It's like, if it smells badly, that means that it's smelling badly would mean I smell a rose and I think it smells like garlic. Or just you can't smell it well, right? Yeah, exactly. Your ability to smell is not good.
Yeah.
Your ability to do smelling is lacking.
Ever.
Okay, guys, what's really weird about this is that I get it if my camera... This is why I think that there's some weird... I think there's some weird intervention here, because I get it when my Logicam doesn't work, but this is just my face. What is it? My built-in cam that keeps going
the
off.
FaceTime, yeah, whatever. Weird.
Yeah.
Weird.
And
Jack, you're a writer. How you feel about adverbs?
About adverbs?
Yeah, Stephen King says don't use them.
I think that you can use an adverb here and there, but Leslie, I barely do any writing anymore. Running quickly is fine. You know, that's a good way to say that the running is going very quick.
Oh, I shit my pants again? What's that? All right. What else?
I don't know.
Smells weird. Smells badly. I feel badly. I feel so badly. That means you touch a cactus and you feel silk.
Yes, exactly. My ability to feel is not quite good.
Right, exactly, yeah.
But touching a cactus, it feels bad. It just feels bad.
Yeah, it feels bad, yeah. Exactly, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, guys, this was a really great show.
Good times.
Yes.
It was great times.
Good times, great memories.
Yeah.
Great times, good memories.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll have to do this again sometime.
Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah. You know, Bodhi pooped on me once.
Oh,
she didn't poop on me. She had poop on her butt and it wasn't cleaned. Because you're supposed to be you're supposed to be self-cleaning, I think.
Animals?
Dogs, aren't they?
No,
I think you got to keep the hair around their ass, like, you know, kind of trimmed.
For small dogs?
You got to keep the hair around the asshole
Why small
trimmed.
Dogs? Why small dogs? Just, for whatever reason, they don't have
genetic.
Just small dogs are a mess altogether. They're not supposed to exist. They're not supposed to exist.
Well, she was sitting on my lap, and I was like, "What is that?" And then it was my birthday stream. It was the day of my birthday. Yeah.
Wow, what a nice present! Happy birthday! Happy birthday!
And what was so weird is I literally have the same dress in two sizes, and I wore one of them, and then I changed out of into the other one.
Wow.
Yeah. Anyway.
But you got to have a costume change.
You got to have
an outfit change for the birthday.
Yeah. Usually they're just not the same.
Yeah.
Anyway, I miss little Bobo. I'll see her soon. She didn't shart on me. She had already pooped. Yeah. All right. Well, guys, this was great. Make sure you check out all of our stuff. Thanks, Nick Palm. Thanks, Varushka. Thanks, Jack. Thanks, Leslie. Thanks, viewers like you. Thanks, Patreon supporters. Let me just see if anyone else joined. The Patriots. That's what I call them, Patriots. We got another one.
Patriots.
Yep, Scott J.
Wow.
Scott J, as in by Scott, he joined. Then we got another one, Paul M. Paul is like, I'm going to call Paul. And when I say call, I mean right now I'm calling Paul. Hi, Paul. Thank you for joining. Yeah. All right. So, and pretty soon I'm going to start doing, I think, some Rockfin only streams. I should talk about that with you, Jack.
What's that? What's Rockfin?
You know Rockfin? Oh, it's like
a fish or something, right?
It is a fish, but it's also a streaming thing. Yeah.
Oh wow. Okay. Yeah, I don't know anything about it. Yeah, I'll be happy to hear about it.
Yeah, we'll tell you about it. It's a thing people stream on. Like Jordan Sheridan streams on it.
Sure. Okay.
Max Blumenthal started his own thing called Foreign Agents. Ben started his own thing on that. So I hope that you guys will like that.
I will check that out. Yeah, I don't know anything about it really.
Yeah. All right. Bye, everyone.
Goodbye.
Bye.